And let's see, 3, 2, 1, in contact. All right, I think. Oh, wow, that actually showed up really quick in the dashboard this time. I think we are live, my friend. I think we're live. So now we just got to tweeter this sumbitch out.
Be like that.
Oh damn it! I said bitch within 30 seconds. Now we're gonna get demonetized.
Fuck it.
Fucking YouTube.
Them bullshit sons of bitches.
Those motherfuckers always messing with us.
Yeah, cock sucking dick fucks. Sorry, that's terrible.
No, it's okay. Hey, I walked you into that through the one-upsmanship. That's on me, bro. That one's on me.
I remember when my dad would get pissed at something or whatever, like when he was like topped out, he'd like string together just a nonsense collection of like curses and stuff.
My dad did the exact same thing. So was your dad a sailor by chance? Like in the military, or
actually, yeah, he was in the Navy for a bit, and then
so
he's had buddies who are like, you know, commercial fishermen and things like that, and so yeah, I guess that might be weird.
Yeah, but my dad was the exact same way. Yeah, like working on a car. You son of a fucking bitch, motherfucker, son of a bitch. You'd be like, wouldn't even make sense.
Motherfucking oh, it's terrible.
Oh my god, good times. Hey, every once in a while we gotta get it out, man. Every once in a while we gotta get it out. All right,
it helps.
It does.
There's like actual like sciences that like if you hurt yourself and stuff, cursing will like helps with the endorphins and stuff.
Yeah, it's like not being able to vocalize your pain makes it worse.
Yeah,
like makes it way worse. That's like the way you have a natural tendency when you like stub your toe or something to just yell super loud, and they get all angry. I don't know if maybe it like gives you like a little adrenaline rush or something like that, and it helps you deal with the pain. I don't know, man. Why do I look like freaking Edward Cullen today? But
yeah,
like,
dude, you're super.
Hold on here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna push this pro color button thing on my screen.
And you're oh, maybe because you got up.
Maybe I'll click that here. I don't know. Does that make me look a little less Edward Cullen-y? Let's see.
It'd be really cool if you were sparkly.
Wouldn't it? Let's see if we get this focused right. There we go. You know what? I'm probably just being washed out by my lights. Let me turn them down a little bit. Man, focus is a tough thing with this thing. Come on. Focus.
That's better. Okay.
Right there. All right. Oh, there we go. All right. That doesn't look
As always, thank you guys for sticking around while we figure this shit out.
This is what we do. It's like we like to, you know, we could get this all worked out ahead of time, but then that would rob you. It would rob them of the experience.
I'm not out of focus.
Am I out of focus?
I shouldn't be.
They're probably on a delay for me because I was pretty severely out of focus. Now I'm not. So, all right, let's see.
You guys can see my settings here for a sec.
I think I sent this all out here.
Not the white, but
I know. I love how these cameras like show it on the HDMI out. Probably because you'd have it connected to a monitor. Is what I'm thinking.
Cam link.
Let's see. IBM cracks. Okay, so click that.
That's a little better.
Send this out to everyone on Discord.
The color's better at least.
Wait, on yours or on mine?
On mine.
Oh, okay.
No, you look much better.
Oh,
much better than when
I
we
had
started.
like this weird like built-in color filter enabled because I was pushing a bunch of buttons on it this morning that I shouldn't have been pushing in a frantic attempt to make things work. Okay, let me move this over here.
I guess especially compared to you, I'm a little fuzzy, but
yeah, your color's on point. We both use the same exact camera too. To those of you that don't like, because you're still using your FDR AX33, right? Yeah. So you and I both have the exact same camera.
I do look a little out of focus compared to you. I mean, from what I see on YouTube,
it could just be the soft compression too through OBS Ninja. So
yeah, I mean, it's funny because like in Ninja, I look great and you look a little fuzzy, but on the YouTube, you look great and I'm a little fuzzy.
I swear that the world just wants to mess with us, bro.
It's fine. Hey, man, this is the way it is.
It's how it is. Okay, well, let me see. Let me pull up my window here. All right, so I got it tweeted, I got it Facebooked, I got it Discord. If we look half asleep, it's because we are, guys. We literally woke up like 20 minutes ago.
Seriously.
I didn't even take a shower. I'm gonna be honest.
You guys want to see something kind of gross?
Hell yeah, I do. You know I do.
So I was punching boxes to like smoosh them into the recycle bin.
I do that too. Oh no, you caught a staple?
No, this just friction. it's gonna be all out of focus because
you sir have anger management issues.
It's not auto-focusing right now.
Dude, how do you punch a cardboard box hard enough to like strip the meat off your fingers?
I'm very strong.
Are you just are you every bit the burly man that you appear to be?
There we go. 4K.
Wait, you got 4K on your camera?
Yeah.
I didn't even know this thing could do 4K. Does it really?
They're 4K cameras.
Oh fuck, I didn't know that. Well, you wouldn't know from the stream because we're only streaming at 1080p and you're in about a quarter of the screen.
That's horrible.
It's wasted energy. All right, I gotta figure out where the hell's chat? I gotta get chat up here because live stream without chat. Okay, I got it. Okay, live stream without chat is no fun. All right, let's get chat up here because you can't see all the fat jokes, and if you can't see the fat jokes, then you won't know if you're ever fat. You know, because obviously I don't know. I mean, obviously.
I donate for you to do 50 squats? Yeah, if you donate $100, I will do 50 squats.
I mean, that's just a downright deal right there. And if you donate $100, I will do one very, very painful push-up. I can do it though. Well, actually, I shouldn't guarantee that because I haven't done it in a long time. And my back's been really, really mega fucked up. So I actually don't know.
I'll do Jerry's push-up too.
You'll do my push-up for me? Okay, thank you. Well, actually, you have to do it per pound though, so you got to do 3 push-ups.
Okay.
Because that's probably how many push-ups you'd have to do to equal my weight. I don't know how much do you weigh there, little piglet?
Oh, around let me see. I think I have, I don't know, around 200.
Around 200 pounds? Okay, yeah. No, that's respectable. That's respectable. So almost 2 of you, dude. I'm 371 pounds as of this morning.
Hold on, I gotta answer the door. The intern just showed up.
Oh, okay. Go answer the door. Because that's how we do. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tech Talk episode. We have no fucking clue anymore. I hope that you're having a wonderful and fantabulous Saturday morning. Unfortunately, the wonderful David Hewlett could not join us today because he's saving his marriage by spending time with his family. Because that's how you save it. No, I'm just kidding. There's nothing going on there. He just wanted to spend some time with his family today, and I don't blame him because spending time with your family is a good idea. I mean, if you're gonna make them and not pull out and stuff, you should probably at least hang around and take care of them and treat them like they deserve. So no, I'll just tell everybody how David unfortunately couldn't join us this morning because he wanted to keep his family happy.
Oh, sure.
So that's a thing that people like to do every once in a while, because it just makes life easier. It really does. David posted oh man, that's a nasty spider, dude. Grody. Yeah. It's like one of those weird white albino spider looking things. Those ones even freak me out more. Like I don't know, maybe I'm racist or something, but I expect my spiders to be dark and all dangerous looking and shit. Not I don't want them looking all transparent and white and they're all threatening though.
It's all creepy looking.
Dude, spiders. What is it about spiders? So the other day, maybe you can explain this to me. This will be a little psychology thing while we're waiting for people to join the stream. But why is it that you see a bear walking, like a bear walking across your yard, or a bobcat, or even a big deer or an elk or something? You're like, oh my god, that is beautiful and majestic, and you step outside and look at it and shit. But a tiny little spider that you can barely see unless you're 5 feet away from it, crawling across the floor, just instills fear. Heart rate jumps up, respirations. You're frantically looking around for something to kill it with, and we're talking about a spider that doesn't even have fangs big enough to go through your skin. I'm not talking about a black widow crawling across the floor like a tarantula. Or actually tarantulas bites I hear aren't that bad. But these tiny little spiders that you could probably just pick up and it could just sit there and bite you for a half an hour and it would do nothing, but somehow it's still just scary as hell. I don't get that, but no matter how much I think about it, the second I see a spider scurrying across the floor, I'm like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. I start freaking out. It's weird.
So a lot of people will be like, oh, it's instinct. And I don't totally agree with that.
I don't either. Why would it be an instinct to be afraid of something so small and insignificant?
I'm fine. If I see a spider, it's okay, there it is, whatever. So it's not just built in, I don't think. But I do think sometimes it's reinforced or there is some event in the past, not necessarily to a traumatic maybe if you have full out arachnophobia where even the thought of them freaks you out, but when you're a kid or something, you're walking around and it got on your face and you're like, oh god, and that memory sticks with you maybe, and so it comes back up at some other time.
Or do you think it's like
But
a learned behavior, kind of like we watched TV growing up, and every TV show was like, oh, spider bites kill or spider bites do terrible things, and so we just associate that with all spiders.
I do think in part it is like a reinforced thing. Yeah,
Because there's people that are afraid of gardener snakes, and when I was a kid, I used to pick up like a dozen of them in each hand and be like, look, I am the gardener snake king, and I'd smell, they get their scent glands all over you, you smell like spider shit. You walk in the house, and you'd find people that would just freak out. Like they didn't care if it was like a 16-foot boa constrictor or like or a king cobra or a gardener snake. To them, it was all the same. It like scared the shit out of them, and I always thought that was just really strange. So I think it's like a learned behavior thing. Like if you raise, because actually that would make sense, because you have people like Steve Irwin that they're raised by a family that does nothing but wildlife conservation, and like his kids, they're like jumping on crocodiles and stuff and like feeding them, and like it's nothing, right? It's nothing to them. So it's got to be like a learned behavior thing, man. We got to stop doing that to our freaking kids, man. Because I mean, I don't want to say like spiders scare. Like if I see a spider across the room, like, or I'm outside and I see a spider web, I'm like, oh, okay, that's kind of pretty nature, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't get worried about it. But if I see it like in the house or somewhere where it's not supposed to be, then my heart starts pumping. I'm like, what the fuck you doing in here, dude? Like, are you plotting on me? Like what are you doing? And the thing is, like, I even had here in Washington, we have something called a false black widow. Have you seen those?
I think I know what you're talking about. I don't think that I've seen them.
Yeah, it looks just like a black widow, but it's like a quarter the size, and it doesn't have the red spot like in the right area. Like, but at first glance, you look at it, you're like, holy shit, big bulbous, bulb on the back of it, and you're like, that's a black widow. And I had one of those crawl up my leg once, and I was wearing jeans, and I freaked out. I froze up, and I was like, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's like crawling up my leg like super slow. I'm like, oh my god, I couldn't move, I couldn't operate. I was like frozen in fear, and I'm like, dude, this thing couldn't bite through my pants if it wanted to.
And so like there's like that startle, right? Like, what is that? And then the unknown, there's something climbing up my leg, right? And so like it's like there's a difference there where like you're walking through the trail and a spider web gets on your face, but you freak out a little.
Like, you see what Robert Taylor said in chat? That's hilarious. He's like, I kill people for a living, and gardener snakes cause irrational fear of me. He was in the Canadian military.
Oh, right.
So, but to be here, I gotta clear things up.
Canadian military.
I know. I gotta clear things up a little bit, just so you guys know. Like when he says I killed people for a living, he was in the Canadian military. He literally served enemies' tea. He always like apologized if he accidentally threw a grenade too close to him. Their Air Force is literally a Cessna with a Molotov cocktail filled with water. I mean, it's like, let's be real here, Robert.
Hey, though, gotta give credit. They did kick the French's ass when we could not.
Is that really much of an accomplishment, though? So, like, I mean,
back when the French were a powerhouse at that time, like, gotta give credit where credit's due.
Oh my god, dude, that's hilarious. I wonder if the Canadians, like, when everybody's telling like their old war stories and their old history, if that's like Canada's go-to. Like, yeah, we kicked the French's ass, and it's like, and like half of them speak French, like half of Canada's like French speaking, and so what they do? Is that like just a civil war overseas? Like, what happened there?
Yeah. Oh I don't know. I don't remember exactly why. This guy's beard is mad. No, man, my beard is very kind and gentle.
It is. I've seen it in person, and I've even touched it. I mean, I don't want to make it weird, but I've been all up in that beard. Okay, I'm just gonna say I've been all up in that beard, and he's right. It is kind and gentle. Tech We Love said, you need to lift. Wait. You need to weight lift some. Your sensitivity goes down when you make the nerves less sensitive. I can't weight lift anymore. That's kind of like how I ended up getting like so fat and so I screwed myself up weightlifting. I'd love to again though. I love lifting weight. Like that was actually some of my best times in my life were when I was lifting weight, but I got one of those weird backs where it's like when it goes out, it like doesn't come back for a long time, if ever. Let's see. Metroid said, you guys got to try the game Grounded. There's a lot of spiders in that game. Like, I don't care if it's on TV. Spiders don't creep me up on, like, nothing creeps me out on TV. I'm not one of those people where it's like just the sight of it freaks me out. I got to be like in the room with it. And I can also defeat my irrational fears too. Like I was never afraid of like small snakes, but big snakes I was. Yeah. Like pythons and boa constrictors and stuff. They always scared me, but I met a albino python at my son's like science thing that they had. They brought in a 16-foot like this. It was like yellow and white, and it was albino and had like red eyes. And it was the coolest thing ever, man. Like I was like up there. I mean, it was like all muscle too. The thing was probably
they're huge,
like not exaggerating, around the fat part of its body that big around.
Yeah.
And so, and just picking up its head and like the first like foot or two of it, you're like, this is a stout animal. Like if this animal wants to wreck you, you're going to get wrecked. And
Mm-hmm.
it was so docile and chill. And like all these like little like sixth graders, or you're not even sixth grader, like 6 to 10-year-old kids are running up and like kissing it on the face and putting their face right up to it and stuff. And you're just like, oh my God, that thing could literally just like swallow that kid. And it was just totally chill because he feeds all his animals before he brings them. And like as long as they're full, they're like completely docile. Like he had a crocodile there. I can't remember what her name was, but a crocodile that was probably 4 foot long. And the dude just like walks up and just hands it to my wife. And she's just standing there holding the 4-foot crocodile. Nothing its mouth's not taped shut, nothing. Yeah. And she's just holding the 4-foot crocodile, and it's just sitting there like, okay, yeah, this is my life now. Like, this is cool. When do I get fed again? And the only animal he had there that was actually dangerous is like the one that if you didn't see it on TV, you wouldn't think it's dangerous, is a freaking alligator snapping turtle. Those damn things, like they're just angry. You can't train them, and they just want to eat your arm and your leg and everything. Like he broke a broomstick with it, and I was like, he's like every animal I brought today, you can walk right up to and like literally like kiss it on the mouth. Like you can do whatever. These things are trained to be around children. Do not get near that fucking alligator snapping turtle. It will wreck you. And this is a guy that had it for like ever. So he's like, that's the one untrainable animal.
Yeah, those things are crazy vicious.
That's wild, man. That's absolutely wild. Yeah, they're the closest thing to like a dinosaur too. Like if you never see one, go look it up. An alligator snapping turtle. They're monstrously strong. Like their jaws can literally break a broomstick like it's nothing. Like literally like it's a toothpick. And it's wild to see. Hey, thoughts from New Lowell. Thank you for the 10 Canadian dollars, man. We appreciate that super chat, dude. It keeps us going. He said, forgot the password. I just put into my new security DVR, trying to telnet to it or something. Dude, that sucks, man. That sucks.
You just put it in there and you forgot?
Yep, that's what it sounds like. Or you know what he might have done that I do all the time is like I'll type in a password wrong twice. Have you ever done that?
Oh yeah.
Like you put it in wrong and then you put it in right and you can check each character and you just cannot fucking get it. So then you have to start typing it really fast and hope you make the same mistake again.
There have been times where I have like enter your new password and then you repeat it, right?
Yeah.
I misspelled it like wrong, but like copied the mistake.
Yeah.
And so like when I went to go back to log in and I did it correctly the way that it should have been, like, and it was wrong. I'm like, what the fuck?
I actually have a funny childhood story that's reminiscent of this that pops into my head. So my first trip as a kid, I want to say I was only like, I think I was 7. I was either, I had my computer. So I was 7. I just got my computer. We go down to California to go to Disneyland. It's the first family vacation we've ever been on. So we go down to Disney and we're staying with my dad's friend down there. He has I can't even remember the dude's name, but he had like one of those big rear projection TVs, you know, those ones back in the 80s that were like CRTs and shitty resolution, but they were like, 50 inch or whatever. He just bought it. It was like brand new. And this dude spent like, all of his money on this TV and it had a child lockout on it. And I went into the settings because he just gave me the remote. He was one of those guys who's super chill, right? He just give kids all of his technology. Oh, you want to go drive the car? Go drive the car. He gives me the remote to the TV and he comes back like 20 minutes later and I locked out every single channel on the TV with a parental code and I didn't know what code I put in. Yeah. And back then there was no service menu. There was no hold down these 2 buttons to reset or anything. This is like, this is all new technology, right? No other TV before this had like this childhood lock thing on it. And so he looks in the manual and it's like, there's nothing about it. So he calls the manufacturer and we're already way back home. We've already left. Like I left his house. This is like 2 weeks later. He calls my dad. He tried everything with their tech support. They sent a tech out to the house. They had to actually open the TV and like replace a board in the TV to undo the childhood lockout that I put on that television. And it was just me just button mashing on his remote control that did it. And I always thought that was really funny and he held it to me for like a long time. Like whenever he came up to visit my dad, he'd always be like, oh, there's a little shit that locked me out of my TV or whatever. It cost me like $300 for a guy to come out and fix it. And so he was like without TV and couldn't watch like a single channel for like, I literally locked out every single channel. You couldn't watch anything. And so he had a satellite dish with like all these like different channels and it would map them to the analog channels on the TV so that he can watch anything. Nothing. I completely locked him out. The only thing that he could do on the TV was he had a Nintendo connected to it and the Nintendo still worked. So like channel 3 or channel 4 wasn't locked, so he could still play Nintendo, but everything else, nope, he was completely locked out of it. And I remember I got in so much trouble. My dad like yelled at me. He's like, "Man, I can't believe you embarrassed me like that in front of my friend. You should know better than to do that." But I didn't even know what I did. I was literally like, it wasn't like I went in there and found like childhood settings and I'm gonna get him lock out the channels. I was literally just button mashing the remote.
I love it.
And like, I don't even think I was even like really like, you push a button, the TV does the thing, and you're just like, oh, that's cool, man. This is like the future. Yeah. And yeah, I ended up like just completely wonking up the entire TV. You had to have a tech replace parts in it. And I was like, oh my God, dude, that sucks.
You hear those stories of like kids getting a hold of their parents' iPad and like screwing up the password a million times, and it's 10,000 years clock to before the thing will open up again and stuff, and they gotta call tech support and have them push a update and stuff. It's nuts. It's so weird.
I ended up wiping my friends. I was drunk as shit though, so I don't have any responsibility here. Yeah, my friend had you remember iPhone, like you could set that setting where if you entered the code, what was it, like 10 times wrong, it would just wipe the device. Yeah, so he had that enabled because it was a work phone and it was on domain policy because it was Microsoft work phone. And I'm sitting there and he's drunk as shit. I'm like, "What's your code, dude? What's your code?" And he's like, "Fuck you, man." And he goes outside and I'm just like, and I didn't know. And it even popped up on the screen and said like, if you enter the code too many more times, it's gonna wipe the device. And I'm like, "Oh fuck you don't know." And it did. It actually factory reset reboot with the Apple logo. Logged in, didn't even know his like SIM, his login, nothing. He comes in, he's like, you didn't. I was like, what do you mean I didn't? Like what, I was so wasted drunk, but by the time we woke up the next morning, he's literally on a call with, I think it was AT&T, and he's like, "Hey, do you guys have a iCloud backup of my phone?" Like, he's like, "I don't have an iCloud backup of my phone. Did you guys back it up the cloud?" They didn't. He had to redo everything on the phone. Like, he didn't have a back because it was a relatively new phone. He had only had it for a little while, and he never set it up with iTunes to do the imaging. So, and it never had the iCloud shit enabled because he was going to connect it to his computer and image it. And so I wiped it. It took out like all his contacts. He had to go like sync it to his Microsoft Exchange account to get a bunch of contacts back. But he lost so many phone. I felt so bad, man. He lost so many phone numbers and shit. And I was like, man, I gotta be a little cooler when I'm drunk. Like, so I had to chill out after that and be like, you know what? Okay, funny's funny, but that was definitely too far. But in my defense, I didn't really think it was gonna like wipe the phone. I thought it was going to basically just like lock you out and you were going to have to like do something minorly inconvenient, like connected to the computer or something to unlock it. I didn't realize it like fully and well wipes it beyond recovery. That is weird. Hey, Gimpy G Gaming, thank you for the $5. Said, "Spiders are jerks. One built a web on my face in the middle of the night and I was powerless to stop it. Yikes. Oh my God." If you don't know, like Gimpy GG Gaming, he's actually Gimpy. Like he's so I believe him when he says the spider actually like built a nest on his face. As long as it didn't go in your mouth, you're probably gonna be okay. Reviewing, playing, and more RPM. Thank you for the 10 Canadian dollars. Said, "Watch your videos for years now. Love your live streams now." Dude, thank you so much. I appreciate that. I enjoy live streaming a lot. So does my buddy AuxxZillary here.
It's the best.
As we get older and grayer, we start to realize that live content is more our speed. Hey, Miss Liz, thank you for the 10 Canadian dollars. You wonderful, wonderful woman.
It's the best. Hey.
I saw some people. Oh, go ahead.
I want to hijack this real quick.
Do it.
Maybe not on a Saturday, but one of these days we really should do a sort of AMA, like
totes,
like social media. I don't know, content creation, live stream, like topical AMA sort of thing.
I'm down. We can even do that over on Twitch if you want.
Yeah, I think that'd be super cool.
Yeah, teach all you guys how to be the next up and coming super big YouTube Twitch stars.
Yeah, just advice or something. Like maybe ahead of time we could pick a few people to bring into the ninja thing here or something, and
it's a good idea.
Do it case by case or something, or yeah. Because man, I've been working with a buddy of mine. He's becoming a loan officer. Like, he just got his license and stuff to start doing the loan officer thing, right? It's like the paperwork for and I'm getting so pumped helping him out with like the social media stuff and like setting up. He's got like his Facebook and his Instagram and he wants to, dude even wants to get in on TikTok. And I'm like on his own. Like he was like, dude, I think I should do that. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. It's not just a bunch of teenagers dancing and stuff. There's like good content. There's good content everywhere.
Yeah.
If you go and find it, right? Like people shit on TikTok because they think it's just a bunch of stupid kids and stuff. Well, you know what? They thought the same thing about Instagram.
Dude,
5 years ago
I've learned some things on TikTok that I legit haven't learned anywhere else just because of the format of TikTok.
It's great. Honestly, it is really freaking fascinating, the things that people are doing.
Yeah.
You give people the tools and they will do incredible things in content creation. Like, I'm not that creative, but I love seeing it, and I'm pumped to help other people to do it. I think it'd be great.
It's a rush too, man. Like I love the attention. That's like why I did this in the beginning. It's not because of the money, it's because of the attention. And I love just, you create a video and it's like, not everyone obviously is gonna take off. Like that's not realistic to even think that, no matter how big you are. But
It's
every
gonna be
once
fun.
in a while you'll create something that just ends up just hitting escape velocity for the moon. And it is the coolest feeling ever. It's literally like a drug. I mean, it probably is exactly like a drug when you look at it physiologically, the way you respond to it. But it's like, I've created a TikTok before that got, what was it, like 4 or 5 or 6 million views, when like every other TikTok I created got literally like a couple thousand. And I'm like, millions of views. And you're just like, holy shit. Like, how does something so small and so simple just like run for the stars? And I don't have a good answer for you. I really don't. It's just some content. Like, you'll look at it personally and be like, nah, there's not much there. But then other people look at it and they see something completely different than you. And that's what's cool.
Yeah. I mean, that's a big part of getting into content creation, right? Is like, you hear it all the time. Oh, how do I blow up on Twitch or whatever? Blah, blah, blah. The first thing is consistency, which, again, like, I say this stuff, but like, I'm not very good at executing. But like, most of the interaction on TikTok is fake. I don't know. I'm sure there's bots, but there's bots everywhere. There's view bots on Twitch. There's comment bots on YouTube. There's whatever. Like, whatever. The content is good. That's the point, really. But like, consistency, because you don't know. All it takes is one piece of content to blow up. And if you look at all of the big guys, all of the no matter what channel you look at, everybody who is blown up, who's big now, look back at their beginning. Everybody starts at 0, right? Nobody starts with 1 million followers. Go Twitch, or look at PewDiePie, right?
Right place at the right time, dude. Just right place at the right time.
His first videos are garbage. Ninja took 20 years or whatever of being a professional Halo player before he got onto Twitch and blew up. Like, these things. Like, he had a pretty big following for his niche, right? He was a Halo guy or whatever, competitive FPS player. It just happens to play with Drake somehow. And now, he's major face. The Tim the Tap Man. I watched him.
That's one I don't recognize. I don't recognize that name.
I kind of a bigger player on Twitch.
Okay.
And I watched that guy back when he had maybe 1,000 viewers, and now just recently he was in a Super Bowl ad.
I know this crossover stuff's getting crazy.
It's
I mean, our freaking co-host here is like a proper celebrity that's in movies and on TV. It's just, what a weird world we live in now, man. It's a whole different game.
Ninja does Fortnite now, but his past was competitive Halo, if I recall correctly.
The other thing too is, like, go back and look at like what their breakout, because everybody has a breakout. That's the thing is, it's not like suddenly you just slowly go from not being famous to famous. There's always a point where you hit this giant uptick, and it can be multiple upticks like that happen. But there's like these events that happen in your online career where somebody else bumps you, or a magazine publishes you, or somebody creates a video about your video that has more followers than you, and they figure out who you are. It's these little things like that elevate you. And I bet you if you go back and look at everybody, except for like the first guys, obviously, like PewDiePie and stuff, but I bet you if you go back and look at like Ninja and Dr. Disrespect or whatever, and you go look at those guys, I bet you they all have breakout moments where it's like they did shit with bigger guys and that launched them into the stratosphere.
Yeah, and collaboration's a big one too. Like,
very big.
You're very unlikely to make it solo, right? You got to cross promote. You got to play with other people, or whatever, So
Yeah, like it doesn't matter how good your content is unless you can get eyes on you in the first place to keep those eyes on you. Then you're spinning your wheels. And that's where clickbait comes in. Like, honestly, I hate to say this, but the reason why clickbait is so prolific on YouTube is because it works.
Yeah,
it legit works. I mean, a great example, Kentucky Ballistics, has a video out right now where a 50, he fires his 50 cal with this slap round in it that wasn't designed to be in the rifle, and it blows up and just explodes in his face and almost kills the dude, right? Jeez. And every video that he creates has, I think it's like 300,000 to 500,000 views or something. This one's over 10 million in like 3 days. And it's because the thumbnail is basically like just a gun exploding. It's like my 50 cal exploded or something like that. And so it just became hyper viral across the internet, right? And the thing is, if he had have created a thumbnail that was just like a picture of him like standing in front of a sign and the title was like, I had my 50 cal malfunctioned, or I had a malfunction or something. It wasn't something like clearly life threatening, like this dude almost died or did die. 99% of those people wouldn't have clicked on it. And the thing is like, and then once they watch the video, they like it and they subscribe, or they don't and they move on. But each one of those people only gets to make that decision because they saw it in the first place. If you skip over it every time because it's not a compelling thumbnail or it's not a compelling title, that person could make the best content in the world and they're still not going to get high viewership.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. Like, that is absolutely the truth. Like, the single most important thing that you should do in content creation when it comes to, in live streaming is a little bit different, but when you're creating like curated edited content, right, is you have to get them in the door. Right. And the platform's not going to promote you unless you get a lot of velocity really quick. And that's why everybody goes to clickbait, man. It's like, that's why people pay. Like, you see this new trend of everybody paying like 50 or $100 a thumbnail on Twitch, or not Twitch, sorry, Twitter. Weird. I mean, they're doing it because they're trying to get like really catchy art, right? They're getting people to create and then having everybody vote for it on social media. So they're basically getting a preview of which thumbnail gets the most attention and which one's the most appealing. And then they take that and throw it on their video, and their video makes 10 times that amount that they paid to get the thumbnail commissioned. So it's actually genius. It all falls into that same category of, it takes money to make money. And actually, let me change that a little bit. It doesn't necessarily take money to make money, but the more money you have, the faster you can make more money. Like, money breeds, right? It's like the more money that you have, the more opportunity you have for it to grow faster. And it's like, if you're willing to, Mr. Beast is an excellent example of this. If Mr. Beast just pocketed all those millions of dollars and he didn't reinvest that into the videos to create stuff that was even crazier and crazier each time and one-upping himself, he would be nowhere near where he's at today. So it's, I mean, greed can kill you in this business too. It's like, if you're willing to reinvest 90% of everything you make back into what you're doing, you will grow a lot faster. That's huge.
That's a huge one. But if you don't, so like, you're just starting out, right? Maybe you don't have money. Time.
That's true. Time. Well, time is currency, right? I mean, you put a value on your time. You have to.
That's kind of the trade-off. If you don't have money to either pay somebody else to do it for you or to whatever, then you have to put more time into making it better, whatever that thing is. And time is always the thing that you're dumping into things. If you don't put the time into it, then yeah.
Oh, it's true. It's true. Well, we got some super chats coming in here.
Yeah.
Jimmy Dolly, thank you for the €5. He said, how Canada's name came to be. All the letters of the alphabet were put in a, what's that?
Like a hat or something.
A toque?
A toque. It's the hat that they got that's got the things over the ears and the little puff on the top.
Got it. And three letters were picked. C, D, and A, or K, A, and A. That's funny, dude.
The joke is like they pull out C-A, D-A-N-A, and that's how Canada comes to.
Wait, was Jimmy the one that was in chat earlier that he was mad that I was ripping on Canada?
I think it was just a little.
Just to be clear, I'm not really ripping on Canada. If anything, I'm ripping on the United States for just being like, USA better than everybody else. I'm more ripping on myself than I'm ripping on Canada. I actually quite like Canada.
To be fair, I understand where he's coming from too. You hear a lot of the same stuff over and over. It gets kind of bleh. So
I'm just getting sick of the cancel culture aspect of everything. It's like, oh my god, you can't say anything online without somebody going, oh my god. It's like, I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm a good person.
Yeah, I don't think that's where he was coming from.
Oh,
He's just
good,
like, oh,
good.
oh, the same tired stuff, right? You know, and I get it. I
Like
get it.
Robert Taylor is actually the person that I was doing the Canadian banter with in chat is actually he's Canadian. Like I worked with
Yeah,
him at Microsoft. He was
man,
fresh off the freaking boat. Like,
it's
and yeah,
crazy though. Like talking with Maple Syrup Mods, right, Nathan? I totally thought it was always just like a joke, like it was like a cliche, like a stereotype. Like it wasn't really,
hmm
but like, and it isn't real strong with Maple Syrup Mods. But I notice that like if I didn't already know, I'd have guessed he was Canadian just from the way he talks.
yeah, it's not always easy to pick up on, but yeah, I usually can figure out like in about 10 minutes talking to somebody like within a relative certainty if they're from Canada or not.
Yeah,
And literally like just across the
and,
border too. Like I'm talking
and
like Victoria, right? It's like
yeah,
or Vancouver rather.
it's a little harder with the west coast because that's always just west coast has less of an accent and he's like central and it's not that bad.
Oh,
But
you know who's
really
a good one? So everybody knows like Linus, Linus Tech Tips is a scripted show. It's like they have writers, everything. If you've ever talked to Linus like in person for any period of time, it is absolutely 100% clear he's Canadian in about 30 seconds. Like when you just talk to him in person, it's just off the cuff. There's a lot of, A's and a boats and buddy and friend and guy. Like, I mean, literally it's hilarious because when you talk to him, it's absolutely clear he's Canadian, but the way that they do their writing or whatever for their show, that doesn't always shine through. Like I've noticed that, like when I watch him on his show versus talking to him in person, it's a fair amount different. It really is. And I always thought that was like pretty funny because it's like, because all the writers are like Canadian, like, right? It's like you'd think Canadian writers, you'd end up with like, but no, it seems like when they do their writing, they kind of adjust for something that is best for like everybody, like just universal consumption of everything. So they try not to use any kind of like terminology that would be local to them, or like I don't have a good example off the top of my head, but like when you're talking to somebody, you start making like analogies about shit if they're relevant, like to something that nobody knows about because it's only in your area. They're like looking at you like they have to start using like their little condex star and figuring out like what the hell you're talking about because they're like, I don't even know those names you said, or I don't know. I don't know what the exact word is for that, but that phenomenon where it's like you have to kind of figure out what somebody's saying and infer it from the sound of their voice and stuff because you don't have a fucking clue what they're talking about.
Right.
Like Australians. This is a good example of that. Is like you ever watch like the Australian parodies or whatever that they have on Twitter where it's like, oh yeah, dang old outback down friend next door, oh diggity do, and you're like, what the hell are they talking about? It's like, you'd understand exactly what they were saying and laugh about it if you actually lived there. But because you don't, you just have to be like, this is Boomhauer,
Right.
From King of the Hill. You're like, what the hell is going on here? Like the old Chopper Reed stuff was pretty funny. Not the real Chopper Reed. I'm talking about like the parody of Chopper Reed.
Right.
Apparently Chopper Reed was a really bad guy. I didn't know that. I always thought that it was a character that was made up on YouTube. And I used to watch this Chopper Reed guy with like a handlebar mustache being like, harden the fuck up, blah, blah, blah. And it was really funny. And then I found out later, I guess it was like a real serial killer or something like that. Like, I was like, ooh, ixnay. Review playing and more RPM. Thank you. Wow. Another $20 Canadian. Thank you, sir. We appreciate that so much, man. We really do appreciate that support here at Old Tech Tip Incorporated Hyper Global Inc. LLC. Let's see. Do you know what a double is? I do not know what a double is, Eric Lacoste. Is that a Canadian term?
In the context of coffee, I think. Or
I've never heard
burgers?
of a double. Like that'd be a quadruple shot, right? Like we call it quad down here.
If it's in the context of coffee, a double I think is like drip coffee, 2 cream, 2 sugar.
Oh no, I had no idea, man. Is that like a thing? If I went to Starbucks here, they'd know what I was talking about.
No, well, I would at Starbucks.
Gotcha.
Tim Hortons, I think that's a common thing at Tim Hortons.
Tim Hortons is pretty good.
But then in the context of burgers, like MD just mentioned, In-N-Out, that is going to be shit. I think it's two patties and 2 cheese.
So a double cheeseburger?
Well, no, because a double cheeseburger could just have 2 patties and 1 set of cheese.
No, that's a McDouble, man. That's a McDouble.
A double would have 1 patty cheese, 1 patty cheese.
You know what pissed me off about McDonald's is like, have you had McDonald's in Canada? It's completely different.
Not that I recall.
Dude, it's completely different. Next time you go to Canada, even just right across the border, like stop at McDonald's and get a meal. It's like everything's different. The soda tastes different. The French fries are better. You can get poutine. Their poutine is actually legit. Like McDonald's poutine is the best.
Well, we're about to. That's a bold claim, sir. I'm sure
it's not the best
somebody's going to
poutine.
fight you on that.
No. If you live in Canada, I'm sure it's like the most garbage poutine in the world. But I'm just saying, like, I've had it like 3 times. Every time I go up there, I get it. And I'm like, why don't they have that here? It is so good. Like, why?
I wish they would. Like maybe one in every state or something would have like a different McDonald's, or like if you opened a franchise, you could have the choice. Like I want to try to have a Japanese menu in my McD's.
Totally, man.
People would. I think it was Burger King did that, where maybe McDonald's did it too, where they took select menu items from different countries and brought them here. Like you could get like this special Spanish burger, or like these special Japanese fries or whatever. And man, I think that would be super cool. I want to, like, I think it was Burger King in Japan had a black burger.
Yeah, I saw
like
that.
The bun was black, the cheese was black, like everything. I would have loved to try that.
Yeah, it's like you just go right across the border, and so you stop at the first McDonald's. Like they got poutine, the soda for some reason it tastes good. It tastes different. It legit probably the corn syrup thing, right?
Cane sugar versus corn syrup.
Yeah, and then oh god, did you see that other thing that's going on right now where it's like Mexican Coke isn't Mexican Coke anymore? Did you see that? Okay, so check this out. This is crazy. So I watched a little mini documentary on YouTube about this, and it was talking about like how we're so susceptible to like marketing, right? We get tied into marketing. And it's like, so Mexican Coke, they still use the old bottles from like, the 50s and 60s or whatever. Yeah. And it's supposed to be pure cane sugar in it. But it turns out that even in Mexico, that's a rare occurrence now, because down there corn syrup became cheap too, and it's not outlawed. So they use corn syrup. And like 90% of their soda now, but it still says made in Mexico. It's still in the same bottles, and they import it in the US as Mexican Coke. And you go buy it, and it's like most of it doesn't have the cane sugar anymore.
That's bullshit, because I can tell. Like if I said, hey, bring me, like if I'm at a little hole in the wall Mexican joint and I say, give me a Coke, and they bring me the glass bottle, and I took a sip, I could tell if that was cane sugar or not, because it is different.
And I know I had a lot of Mexican Coke when I was down
pissed. Plus you can tell, the ingredients are right there.
Well, and that's the thing, is like the ingredients wouldn't say cane sugar. It would literally be the same label as here, just on the glass bottle, and it would say it would literally have the label on it that's like Mexican Coke. But the Coke bottler down there switched to high fructose corn syrup. So it's like a lot of people are buying this stuff. And they said that there were some stores that carried it more than others, because it is cheaper. It's a lot cheaper to produce. Yeah. So like Safeway or something had it. And they're like, well, next time you go to Safeway, pick up, a bottle of Mexican Coke and look on the back and see if it says it has cane sugar or if it has the high fructose corn syrup, because a lot of them down there are now doing it. But it's one of those things where it's like, if you just slowly make that transition, people might like notice the taste difference a little bit, but they might just be like, oh, it's a little off, and then just keep drinking it. And then you're like, they might not know. Some people might not know.
Yeah,
you can do that. Like they've changed formulations on shit for years, right? Like Coke and Coke Classic and stuff like that. It tastes like completely and wildly different, but you just kind of get used to it. It's like a mental game. Just like French fries. Like we're not allowed do you remember, was it like 10 years ago or whatever, they banned monosaturated fats or whatever from the oils in restaurants?
Something like that.
Yeah, like even McDonald's was like freaking out because all their fries were fried in this oil that is now illegal, and they had to switch to a new oil, and it changed the taste of their fries. And I knew, man, when I went and got McDonald's, I was like, this does not taste good at all. This is gross. And then after like 6 months, you forget about it, and you're just like, this is what it's always tasted like. It's bizarre, man.
Peanut oil is the way to go.
It is. Well, unless you're allergic.
So yeah.
Unfortunately, too many people are allergic to peanut oil for it to be realistic for most restaurants.
That is so good.
No, I love Five Guys. That's the thing I love about Five Guys. It's the burgers aren't. They're good. The burgers are good. But the fries are what I go for. Like the peanut oil just makes everything amazing. But the problem is peanut oil is really expensive.
I think
too many people are allergic to it. Peanut allergies are like one of the most severe allergies there are. Like people literally go into like anaphylactic shock and shit from even being rubbing it on their skin.
So good.
I do like how Five Guys though gets around like the accidental allergy. It's like just you walk up to the store and it's like there's just boxes and boxes of peanuts everywhere. So you know when you're going in that store, like if you have a peanut allergy, you're not going to step 3 inches inside of that door.
Right.
Like they give you every opportunity and every message to know that you're, you know, if you proceed, it's at your own peril and you'll probably die. Like bring an EpiPen to lunch. But no, I love peanut oil. Actually, we had some friends, they recently moved away, unfortunately, COVID, the whole story there, but they used to do a turkey fry every year for Thanksgiving, and we went over there for probably like 4 or 5 Thanksgivings in the last 10 years, and they take this big old turkey and drop it in this giant, you know, peanut oil fry bath. Oh my god, there's no better way to make a turkey. Like seriously, it's like if you've never had a fried turkey in peanut oil, it is the greatest thing ever. Plus, it's cool when it screws up and it like overflows, and there's a giant freaking fireball that goes up like 15 feet in there in the middle of the neighborhood. And it looks like a mini
still
nuke
frozen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. And then somebody just mentioned the Cadbury eggs. Yeah. So Nestle bought Cadbury and changed their chocolate. Yeah. And yeah, same deal. They changed Butterfingers. I won't eat Butterfingers anymore because they taste bad. I
haven't had a Butterfinger in forever, dude.
They changed the filling. Something about the recipe and the filling is different, and
it's all to save money. It's all a profit thing. Like they could literally still make the candy bar the same way they always did.
Yeah,
they just don't because they can save a little bit and pass those savings on to themselves.
Cadbury was doing just fine.
Yeah. Well, maybe not if they had to be sold. maybe if Nestle bought them, they weren't doing the greatest.
Sometimes they don't get a choice.
That's
right?
True.
They can just come in and buy them out.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I mean, Microsoft bought
takeover stuff.
Yeah, like Netscape or whatever, the Microsoft Netscape story that like nobody seems to know about anymore. Netscape, guys, Netscape was literally supposed to be the internet. Like as far as the consumer was concerned back in the day, Netscape was poised to be the internet. Every website was designed for Netscape. Microsoft like could not get like any purchase whatsoever. Internet Explorer was a piece of shit. And actually this even predates Internet Explorer. Well, it still was a piece of shit. So Edge is a little better, arguably, because it's based on Chromium, but only because it's based on Chromium. But Microsoft literally like gave shit, just what the fuck, Netscape. Yeah, thank you. God, I keep thinking Netscape in my head. I'm like, what the hell? No, but Netscape was. I'm so tired today. Netscape was hostily purchased by Microsoft. Like Microsoft took them over because they wouldn't play ball. Like Microsoft literally was like, you guys are going to put your Netscape browser exclusively in our operating system. You're not going to make it for Mac anymore. You're not going to make it for. It's going to be just for us or whatever. And they're like, no, fuck you. And Bill Gates was like, nah, bro. Like we're just gonna just crush you and then take you over for pennies on the dollar. And so yeah, Microsoft has a history of doing shit like that. But I mean, every company does. Like I'm not gonna sit here and act like, oh, Microsoft's like some kind of special thing doing that. No, all companies do that shit once they get to that size. But it's just sad because it's like, you know, Netscape was just like kicking ass and like, you know, they had a bright future ahead of them. And Microsoft's like, no, we're just not going to if you're not going to do what we want you to do, we're just going to crush you down to where you're valueless and then just acquire you and stick your shit in our operating system anyways.
And they did kind of roll out into Mozilla and Firefox.
That is true. I mean, they're still alive, but it's not the same company. It wasn't after that. Like that was, and the thing was, there's even like emails and stuff that were leaked from that entire era and stuff. And like Bill Gates was just cutthroat back then, dude. Like, I mean, he was literally like, fuck you. I will ruin you. I will miss my lunch today and spend $1 billion just to see you like suffering. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that's like Bill Gates is I mean, you don't get to his wealth without at least some point in your life being like a shrewd ass businessman, right?
Right.
So he was like scary ass OG shrewd ass businessman. I mean, we're talking about a guy that like went toe to toe with freaking Steve Jobs, right? We're talking about Steve Jobs like arch nemesis, and we all know how good of a guy Steve Jobs was, right? I mean, Steve Jobs was a terrible human being. He really was. The dude literally treated humans like slaves and like trash and would rip off everybody he had an opportunity to. And the guy was just cutthroat as shit. But look how successful he was. You know, it's wild. We kind of live in a world that rewards stuff like that. You know, if you're willing to do shit other people aren't willing to do, and it gives you a leg up because of even if it's a morality based thing, doesn't matter. It's like as long as you're willing to do one step than the other guy, you're always going to be more successful. And that's kind of sad. Hey,
There is.
review. Wow, review playing and more just dropped another 10 Canadian, man. He's funding the whole show today. He said this one to even things up so you can split it easier. Oh, thank you. He's making the math on me easy.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, because we split all the super chats, guys. Just so you know, all the super chats they come in during all the tech talks. Those are split right down the middle between us, so that we can fund our things that we do. It's a good system.
Except the conversion is going to be wonky.
13 cents. Yeah, that's actually true. It'll end up being like $8.32.573.
Right.
It'll be something that can't be divisible till it gets to like the 16th decimal point or something like that. But it's fine. I round up for you, Ox, because I love you so much. I round up for you every month when I sit there and do it. I round up for you, bro.
It's got to make the taxes shitty.
Well, the tax is already shitty for me because of the way we do it. I pay all the taxes on it. So, but it's all right because I recoup it on the views if we don't get demonetized.
I don't claim a dime of this.
IRS might come try to take your $50 away.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Nico Lover, thank you for the $5. Said, finally was able to catch you live again. Love watching your shows, and I'm glad Ox finally made use of that ad space, get that money. Oh, yeah, dude, you gotta earn that money. You better start promoting this Australian dude.
It's a gal.
Oh, sorry.
Shit.
I already fucked that up, didn't I?
Yeah, no, it's fine. So Shan L. Scott, you see here, is our sponsor, or is my sponsor for today. And she's got some books. And she actually sent me some short stories. I didn't realize she had sent me some short stories to like peruse so that I could talk a little more about her content. But I should have. But yeah, she does books.
How did Shan come across? I mean, is Shan a watcher of the show?
Okay. But I think only like in bits and pieces because she's on Australia, right? Queensbury. Hang on, it says in Brisbane, Queensland. So it's like 3 a.m. for her, like right now.
Whoa, she sells her book for $2 for the ebook?
Which, I mean, that's pretty standard. That's pretty standard.
Really?
Stuff.
I didn't know you could get books that cheap in any format.
Yeah, which super cool. So this is outside of the ad space, but related. You can totally self-publish fairly easily, especially like through Amazon, ebooks and whatnot for next to nothing. Oh, there she is. Awesome.
Oh, we actually got the Shan in the house right now?
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
But I am here.
Shan L. Scott in the house right there.
She was saying she may not because it's super early in the morning. She got to go. It's Mother's Day.
All right, I got
it right now.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, they're ahead, right?
Uh-oh. Did I fuck something? When's Mother's Day?
Tomorrow.
No.
Yes, literally. It's always the second Sunday of May.
How do I keep fucking this up? Miss Barnacules usually gives me like a hint or nudges me or something because she's. Oh my god, I'm so fucked. I know I'm so fucked. Anyways, I'm so properly fucked. All right, half of today's super chats are going to Miss Barnacules. Surprise, honey. How the fuck do I keep missing this?
It's always the second Sunday of May.
Dude, I don't know what day it is most of the time. Man, I'm going to hell. I'm straight up going to hell, bro. Like, how did I
don't think technically it's a sin, so I think you're fine.
God, how do I keep doing this? Well, Ms. Barnacules, if you are listening, this was all just a joke and a ruse. Like, I did know it was Mother's Day, and I'm gonna surprise you with a bunch of money tomorrow, and you can have anything you want to eat, like anything you want. Like, if you want to go to Five Guys today, we're going to Five Guys. I'm just saying it's tomorrow. Anything you want. Like, I've been planning this for weeks. And I don't know. Is this a good recovery? I
think you're okay.
You think I got her? Okay. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
get her with the massage thing.
Oh, I'm gonna. Yeah, and you're gonna get like an awesome massage tomorrow. Yeah. You know, and I'm gonna put on some music and go get some dandelions from outside and sprinkle them on the floor.
Right, you got that Theragun thing, right?
I do. I got the Theragun and
hit her with that.
Yeah, I'm gonna hit her with that and
maybe some Doge. Get her some Doge.
Yeah. Totally. I'll give like I got 5,000 Dogecoin for her that I want to put in her own little personal wallet so she can be a crypto trader. No. So thank you everybody for blowing my secret. Oh man, I planned this for so long. God, I am so dumb. How do I miss? I literally miss every holiday every single year. Like I wouldn't know it's Christmas unless I saw a tree.
Right now, Put it in your calendar.
I need to.
Reminder.
All right. Create reminder for tomorrow, 9 a.m. Give it to Miss Barnacules hard, because it's Mother's Day. Okay, hold on here. I gotta see if Sanjay's gonna do this here. Okay, give it to Miss. Wow, it actually did it. Give it to Miss Barnacules hard because it's Mother's Day. Wow, they're really getting good with this speech to text thing. All right.
Are they though?
You know what? For her, I'm gonna go an extra 15 seconds tomorrow. I'm just saying it's gonna be difficult. I'm gonna be pushing outside of my limits, but I think I can do it. I think I can make it work. I can't believe I forget this shit. I feel so bad. Because I even try. That's the thing is, like, but I just get, like, I don't know what it is, but I just get completely out of time. Like, sometimes I don't even know what month it is. It's weird. Like, I'll just forget. I'll look at my calendar and be like, oh, it's April. And it's like, oh, no, I just forgot to change the calendar. You know, I don't know what my deal is. So back to, was it Shan or Shan? Is it Shan? Okay.
Yeah.
So Shan, we should probably read here. I'm going to help you out with your little advertisement. By the way, AuxxZillary gets to keep all the advertisement money that he creates in that box over there. So that's kind of like my little deal with him is like, you know, we split the super chats and anything he wants to put in that box, he can keep. But I'm going to help him out today by reading this synopsis or overview of the book See Me, which I think is that the latest book, Shan?
Let me see.
I think that's the latest book because it's at the top of the list. So
See Me is the first in the Second Sight trilogy, and then See Us is it goes See Me is the first one, See ICU is the second one, and then See Us is the most recent one.
So the See Us is the newest one. Okay, so you probably got to read the first two, or the third one you're gonna probably be lost, right?
I would think, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
So you do See Me, I'll do ICU, and then.
All right, let's do this. Okay, so
we'll leave it to the class as an exercise to the class to catch up on See Us.
Let me move this so I can actually like put it in front of the camera so it looks like I'm kind of looking in the general direction here. All right, you guys ready? All right, this is See Me from Shan Scott. Okay, this is just a little teaser just to kind of get your mind hard. It says Shelley, bright, young, beautiful, and with the world at her feet, a steady relationship and a promising future. Death brings a change to her cocooned world. Her sanity is challenged, relationships destroyed. Her reputation is in tatters. Can the one thing that ruined her life become her salvation? Dun, dun, dun. Can she begin to truly see herself? Dun, dun, dun. To see her world for something utterly different than what she thought it was. This gripping, edge-of-your-seat thriller will have you guessing at every twist and turn. Join Shelley as she learns the dark truth about what lies behind her vivid eyes. Things will never be the same again. There you go. All right. That's like the
cool.
Best reading you're ever going to get for that kind of money.
That was great. Actually, that was super cool. That was great.
I kind of like that, man. I feel like I should be doing like voiceovers for like shitty movie trailers where they can't afford the Don LaFontaine impersonator.
Right. Didn't he die?
Yeah, that's why they got the impersonator guy now that sounds just like him.
That's one of those. There's like totally off topic, but there has to be some like initiative, some project to like machine learn these like iconic voices. Morgan Freeman, Samuel, the guy with the mustache, the Texas guy, beef. It's what's for dinner.
Oh yeah. I forget his name, but no,
Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott. Yep.
Those, that kind of stuff.
I mean, I think they can already do it because like Adobe's speech synth technology or whatever, and Microsoft had it like 10 years ago where you could just have somebody read a whole bunch of stuff and then it would simulate their voice with whatever you typed in. It would even do the inflections and everything based on punctuation.
I would hope. That'd be cool.
It's pretty cool. So Shan, I hope you have a great book launch and I hope that you feel that you got your value out of this. And I'm sure a ton of people right now are rushing to your site because they want to read this thrilling. Right. No, wait, can you also do it like, wait, it's an ebook, so I can read it to you, right? So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because I'm like, I want to like hear it. I don't want to read. Reading is my weakness because I got bad dyslexia, and I'll be honest, I'm quite proud of myself for getting through that without my dyslexia screwing me sideways. So yeah, you might have noticed I had some like pauses in there for effect. No, that was me just trying to sort out my dyslexia in my brain. So you got to get See Me, ICU, and See Us. The hat trick of I don't know, what would you call this? Is like, is it romance? I'm guessing it's romance, right? Is this romance or is this like thriller or what genre is this? I mean, Shelly, she's learning a dark truth and shit. So I'm thinking there's some
it's a
thriller
little
aspect.
thriller. Yeah, I feel like it's more thriller aspect. Yeah.
Okay, and she's got some other books here too. What is it? Tempest, a storm of wind and rain novella.
That one looked really interesting to me actually, and the Sideshow Alley too. That looked pretty cool.
Wow, she seems to have quite the range here. Yeah, all over the place. This is cool. So awesome. Well, there you go, guys. And yeah, there's her website right there. And go get your book on, because reading makes you smarter. I think. I don't know. Does it really? I'm thinking it does. Maybe. Oh, he's distracted. We've lost the beard. The beard is offline. The beard is now listening to see if he's in trouble and has to sleep on the couch tonight. Gimpy said I really touched his nether parts during that reading. Awesome, dude. That's what I was going for. Whoa, Nico lover. Thank you for the $5. Said finally able to catch your live stream. Love watching your shows, and I'm glad Ox finally made the space for that money. I mean, he's got to get paid somehow, because I don't bring enough into this show to float him. Richard Gagnon, thank you for the $20. Said, we got you, Jerry. It happens to all of us. To be fair, my wife forgot our anniversary last year, even though it's been 9 years. For Shelly. Yeah, I've actually, I try not to forget the anniversary, but it does happen. I am just a super flighty guy when it comes to dates and times. Uh-oh, what's going on here? I think we've lost the Ox. Are you okay, bro? Everything all good?
Yeah. There's a bit of a argument happening with the kids. So
well, we can't make out any of the actual words, so I think we're probably okay. You just hear in the background, it's just
okay.
Slap.
I'm gonna turn myself down just a little though.
There you
go. To try not to catch too much of it.
Hey, it happens, guys. When you're doing a live performance like this, sometimes you're gonna have some family disputes in the background. It's just it's how shit goes. It adds to the realism.
I wanted to make sure it wasn't something I needed to be involved in.
That was smart of you. That was very smart of you. We're gonna start seeing shit breaking behind you and stuff, and holes a fist come through the wall. Oh my gosh.
Maybe
we need to build you a sound booth. That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do a DIY gasm on building AuxxZillary, a sound booth in his shed.
There's some space in the garage that I want to kind of take over a little bit. Once there's a chandelier I need to hang and some stuff I gotta move over to my brother's place and blah blah. There's a good space right where I built built some shelves along one wall of the garage, and then the short wall of the garage has got a good space. And I found this really cool thing at IKEA, but it seems to be out of stock everywhere. So I'll just get you the smooth jazz voice.
Ooh, that's good. That sounds yeah. How about if I get a little closer to? Actually, hold on. For to compete with you, I need artificial boost. Hey guys, how's it going? Let's see if we can make them subwoofers really work. Yeah.
This is my 98.9 smooth jazz.
Welcome to Tech Talk, where we talk about tech every once in a while, and the rest of the time we promote Shan L. Scott's books.
Yeah,
because reading makes you hard. It does though. I mean, actually, I should probably turn. I don't know. Do you guys like super bassy Barnacules? Would you like me to go back to regular mode, or is everybody already sitting on their subwoofers right now? You never know. I mean, that's why you got to crowdsource this shit, because I don't know. Jimmy said ASMR hour. It totally is. Pod Lassie would like to know what the manga on your shirt is.
It's a goofy ramen monster.
Let's see it. I want to see the ramen. Oh, look at that, man! It's like Cthulhu, but with a bowl and noodles. Dude, that's pretty cool.
It's a great.
That's pretty cool. Speaking of what is manga anyways? Can you explain that to me? I know, is it like anime or is
comic books?
Oh, it's just comic books. Okay, because I was like, what? I see manga.
Visual novels.
Okay. So it's like the book version of anime then.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. So Miss Liz warped me the other day. And by the way, just if you guys go searching for this stuff, this is on you, not on me. So I'd like to make that clear. All right, we got to make sure that are you going to survive? Are you okay, Ox? Are you in any danger? Blink twice if you need assistance. Okay. So anyways, Miss Liz thought it would be a good idea, because we were talking on my Twitch live stream the other day. We were talking about this show. Have you ever seen Mr. Pickles?
No.
So Mr. Pickles is a show that's on Adult Swim. So that hold on here.
Come on, Daisy. Come on.
Are you alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me wondering if I fed the dog.
Oh, okay. It's a close call. I was like tense. I was like, I could hear the music in the background, like dun dun dun.
That's all right.
Where were you to defend me? No, that's what I'd expect to see. Like you gotta just jump into those fights and pick a side, man. Actually, that's never a good idea. Don't ever take my advice on that. No, anyways, so back to Miss Liz. She was feeling quite one-upsmanship the other day. And I'm talking about the show that's the worst show. I mean, it's literally so bad you have to just keep watching it. And I can't stop watching it. I'm binge watching it right now. It's called Mr. Pickles. It's an Adult Swim show, and it's on Hulu of all things right now. So Hulu isn't the place where you'd expect to see something like this. The synopsis basically is like Lassie if everything was like satanic devil worship, rape and murder.
Weird. Okay.
So it's really, really bad. It's like I watched it and I was like, how the hell are they allowed to do this? Like it makes Paradise PD, Big Mouth, South Park, all that shit just seem like tame, like PG.
Yeah.
It is so bad. And they won't stay away from anything. Like anything that's a sensitive topic, they just go like full on into. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, how did this ever make it onto TV in any way, shape, or form? So anyways, I was talking about this the other day. So Mr. Pickles, again, if you guys want to watch it on Hulu. But she decided to one up it and she's like, oh, you should watch Black. Well, she shouldn't say you should watch, but she said, check out Black Bible. There's an anime called Black Bible. I'm going to tell you right now, if you guys go search for that shit, you can't unsee what you're going to see. So just fair warning, like that's not on me. That's on you. I was like, holy crap. It is. Oh, Bible Black. Sorry, not Black Bible. I don't know. Is that might be a superhero somewhere. I don't know. No, Bible Black. That's what it is. Sorry, I see dyslexia, man. Strikes at every turn. But yeah, Bible Black. Wow, man. I like scrubbed through one that I found on the Internet Archive of all things. InternetArchive.org had this episode, and I'm scrolling through it, and I can't even describe, without getting banned off YouTube, I cannot even describe to you what I saw in the first like 20 seconds of the show.
Oh, this is an anime.
Oh, this is an anime. Yeah, this makes a Ruksuki Doji look tame, dude. Like if you've never seen that, you should probably go watch that too. It's like tentacle porn basically. But I was like, holy crap, man. I cannot believe the shit that like was broadcast or sold or something, like that wasn't like sold as like porn, like literally like it's not considered that yet. I mean, I can't even describe it. It's just it's an experience. But still, Mr. Pickles though is in the sweet spot. Like Mr. Pickles, I like sit down, I enjoy it because I'm like gagging on my own spit, laughing and covering my mouth so I don't wake up Miss Barnacules, because it's got so much shock value to it. And but yeah, the Bible Black was definitely over the edge. That was that was a little too much for me. Which is saying something. But yeah, if you haven't seen Mr. Pickles, please go watch a couple episodes and let me know what you think. They're only 10 minutes long. They're like these really short animated episodes, but just think like Lassie and Timmy, right? It's Lassie and Timmy, except for Lassie is basically the devil and Timmy doesn't know it. And Lassie literally just runs around and commits the most heinous crimes you could ever imagine. And literally runs like a demon lair in the doghouse and everything. But Timmy is like completely oblivious to everything going on and just thinks it's like his good old boy dog that's always helping him and being a good Samaritan.
Aww.
And it's all death metal music. Like even the opening song is like death metal, like Satan worship music. It is the weirdest. Like, I don't know how they even wrote this show. like the amount of drugs that were involved writing this is, it's just weird. Yeah, Miss Liz said his first reactions were priceless. Yes, just so you know, I did actually watch Bible Black. Like they didn't see it. I obviously couldn't put it on the screen because that would have been an instant ban. But they watched my reaction to seeing it for the first time. And I was like, I don't know what to think anymore. Like after watching that, I was just like, you know what? This raises too many more questions than answers. But yeah, anyways. So you guys, if you take anything away from Tech Talk today, just know that you should probably go watch Mr. Pickles. And if you're feeling really adventurous, Bible Black, but just make sure that there's like no kids within 20 miles and your wife is nowhere to be seen. Right. Because like my wife literally doesn't care that I watch like adult stuff or anything. Doesn't phase her a bit. However, if she saw me watching that, she'd really start questioning life. Like it was that bad. It was really, really that bad. Hey Krillin, what's up, my man? He said, I see Mr. Pickles on Adult Swim. It was all right. Didn't shock me at all either. Well, Krillin 64, you're a special breed of person. Okay. You're a special breed of person and you should be proud of that. But no, and don't get, I mean, I'm not saying that Mr. Pickles like watching it, like you're gonna be like, oh my God, oh, like it's gonna warp you and you're gonna have nightmares and stuff. It's not like that. I'm just saying for a cartoon,
Yeah.
Like for a cartoon, it is just, it's so far out there because you're used to see it. Like, have you ever seen Paradise PD?
Mm-mm.
Oh my God, you're missing out, dude. You don't want, I'm starting to get the
I don't really
impression you don't watch
watch
a lot of TV. Yeah. Well, unfortunately, when you got a bad back like me, it's pretty much what you do primarily with your life. But I'll tell you what, man, you should definitely, like, how about Rick and Morty? Do you watch Rick and Morty?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay, Rick and Morty is like really, really intelligent, right? Rick and Morty is one of those shows where you can watch it 20 times over and you find something new each time, and there's a lot of like subtle complexity to the humor. Mr. Pickles is just like a bunch of people who are really bad on drugs, and they're like, what can we get away with? Like, what is the worst possible thing we can get away with every 10 seconds for 10 minutes? And how do we make shit not make any sense? Like 0 sense. Like just shit happens that doesn't make, like, and it'll be that on top of it again, redoubling down. Mm-hmm. Like there's a scene, I don't even know. How can I even describe this? Like it's a dude in a car with like a hooker, and he says a bunch of terrible shit that's like even in that situation that wouldn't be acceptable. And then he implies that it's his wife, but that's how you find out that it's a hooker. It's not his wife, and he's talking to her. And then like another hooker pops up from another part of the car, and then another one from the other of the car, and then they all get mad when he tries to buy him with a credit card or whatever. They all jump out of the car, and then the dog jumps in and like murders him and then wears his body.
Weird.
Like you're like,
okay,
what's going on here? You know, it's one of those weird like Adult Swim, like it makes Aqua Teen Hunger Force make sense. Just put it that way.
Okay.
So Mr. Pickles, that's your homework, guys. Before the next Tech Talk, everybody go watch Mr. Pickles, and I'd love to hear your input on it. And again, it's definitely one of those shows that obviously isn't still on today, because I'm sure it well and properly crosses over any boundary that would be allowed. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that can't exist today. That's actually kind of something that would be interesting to talk about. Like all the stuff that couldn't exist today. Like, you couldn't have a Blazing Saddles today. Oh, you couldn't. That movie could never be reshot.
Heck,
ever.
Even what the oh dang it, the one with Jack Black and Robert Downey Jr. Tropic Thunder.
Where he played Tropic Thunder, where he played blackface. Yeah, I remember that.
There was some time he did some interview about that, and it's like, it just wouldn't have never made it past. You know, it wouldn't have been greenlit.
Yeah, it couldn't exist today. It absolutely couldn't exist today. And
like, it's weird because like I remember it was, I don't know, maybe a year or so ago, people were like trying to like attack Robert Downey Jr. about it, and it's like a lot of it seemed to be like you clearly didn't watch the movie, because like that was kind of the point of it, was like the guy was taking his like method acting too far, right? And like it was like a what's the word? Like not an expose, but like they were showing like how ridiculous it'd be to cast a white person for like a clearly like black role. Like
it's a movie clearly making fun of itself, right? It's like this is all the wrong way. Like the whole movie is, the premise is basically like, this is the wrong way to do this, right?
Right.
They're like shooting on location, an actual war zone, and people are actually getting murdered and stuff to like shoot this movie. It's like the whole thing is like basically this is the absolute worst way that you could do everything in producing a movie. But I think today it's like everybody like comedy is not I guess safe. I guess it's just safe is the word, right? Comedy just isn't a safe haven anymore, where it's like anything goes in comedy. It's now you have to be like really, really careful about, like, you can still be offensive, but it has to be to incredibly like large groups of people, right? If it becomes offensive on any level to any kind of like smaller group or anybody that has like the spotlight on them at any given time because of recent events, then that makes it more sensitive, right? So obviously, but over time that changes, right? It's like over time that changes, but the movie's still there. Yeah. You know, and that's where you get stuff like Blazing Saddles. But the thing is, Blazing Saddles is like an amazing movie because it literally uses that comedy to make fun of racism and to make fun of slavery and to be, this is the dumbest thing ever. Like if you watch the movie, that's literally what it's doing. It's showing how ridiculous and how stupid this all is.
And I don't know, it seems there's like the thought of
satire. That was the word I think we were looking for earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Satire. Mm-hmm. And like you can't make, there are some times like that's a way to cope with horrible either people or happenings is I think my dog's scratching at the door.
Get her. Yeah, the way I see it is kind of like self-deprecating humor, right? It's like self-deprecating humor to me is like empowering, But and it used to be funny, like people would laugh along with me and it'd be like you disarm it. But nowadays it's like, man, you do any self-deprecating humor, people are like all over you instantly. Oh, I was talking about self-deprecating humor. Like, you know, it's like, to me, it's like that helps me cope, right? Like making fun of like bad situations that I feel powerless to change. It's just who I am, right? So I'll start doing that. And it's like back in the day, people would laugh along with me and they'd be like, okay, you know, you're owning it. Like that's your thing. And nowadays it's like, boy, people get really mad if I say anything self-deprecating, even if it's clearly in a humorous context. People get like really, really upset and like triggered by that. And so the culture has definitely shifted. Like being a comedian nowadays, like you couldn't have a Richard Pryor, you couldn't have like who'd be another like really like a Dane Cook, right? Like what is Dane Cook doing these days? Because I don't know how his stand-up act could work in today's climate.
Well, he did okay. I don't remember him being too weird or offensive when he was big.
I guess he never, like, he knew how to ride the line pretty good.
Yeah,
like he definitely did. But it's like, the shock, like where the hell's Lisa Lampanelli? I haven't seen her in forever, man. She was like way over the top. And I loved her. George Carlin would not fly today, like at all.
Yeah. And on the one hand, I appreciate that people are more aware of and try to be conscious of people's of other people's like feelings and whatnot. But it's I don't know. There's like a balance, right?
Yeah.
Like,
or like Bob Saget. Oh my God. When I saw Bob Saget doing like the Entertainer or whatever, that. I was like,
I love how people only ever associate him with like America's Funniest Home Videos and stuff. And then like to watch his stand up is outrageous.
Yeah. I think it was called The Entertainer, right? The joke, the weird joke that Bob Saget and all the people tell. That's like the worst horrendous joke that has all the things you never talk about in it.
I don't know.
Oh shit, I can't remember. Somebody in chat will know, but go look it up sometime and watch like your favorite celebrities that you thought were like these like really innocent types, and they tell this joke, and it's the most horrendous joke you've ever heard. I mean, it is literally the Aristocrats. That's right, that's what it was, the Aristocrats. So just look up Bob Saget and the Aristocrats sometime and watch, and it's like the shit that Bob Saget says. And this thing, you're like, you'd never expect it, and it's more of a shock because he's associated with like family TV, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it too, right? Is like, how far are you off from your base? Like if you're a comic that's known for like always being offensive and always being shock value or something, it seems like you're a little bit less of a target than say the person that seems and presents like really clean and like as a role model and then just comes out swinging one day, which does actually happen. Like I miss Dave Chappelle was awesome too. I love Dave Chappelle's comedy. It was really, really, really dark sometimes. Yeah. Bill Burr, that's another one, right? Is Bill Burr still doing anything today?
I don't know about him, but I've seen some recent stuff from Bill Mayer, and like I just mentioned it in the chat, but he strikes me as slipping just toward being like an out of touch old man.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. It's just like I just recently saw this clip of him bashing on Twitch, like, and it's like, like. He said something about like, oh, why would I watch some other people play video games? Like, because I don't want to waste my fucking time. And it's like, well, what about your audience? What are they doing then? Like, why would I want to watch? Why do I want to watch you? For what? Isn't watching any sort of like video entertainment a waste of time then? Like, if you're gonna pick on one channel, why doesn't it apply to every channel?
Yeah. I think comedy used to be the great equalizer, where it's like everybody could come in, it was equal play. Nobody was off limits, right? It was like and unfortunately that's not the case anymore.
But it should be. Like I think South Park actually touched on this. Like if because like it was like, or maybe it was Family Guy, or they were riffing on Family Guy, where like an episode of the show they were watching, which was I think a riff on Family Guy, like depicted Muhammad, right? And you're not supposed to do that. You're not supposed to.
That was South Park, and they even got like threatened, and they said they were going to behead him and kill him and stuff. I mean, it was really bad.
So yeah, and it's like, but like that's the point of comedy. That's the point, is to bring it to, is to point out ridiculousness, or to point out the the differences, to point
Yeah.
out and to bring certain topics into the light that might be otherwise difficult to talk about. And sometimes comedy can be disrespectful. And I don't know, you can have an opinion on that. And that's, I mean, yes, some comedy is disrespectful, but it isn't always like without meaning, or like it isn't
I think you said it best when it's like
necessarily degrading. I don't know.
It shines light on things that you normally wouldn't, things that people shy away from. Like that's what I think comedy, like as a tool, is just like self-deprecating humor makes you feel like you're kind of like taking control of the situation. It's like making dark humor allows you to cope with something because you're basically intermixing laughter and like, you know, a sense of like relaxation and letting go of something that's really tragic.
Yeah.
And it's like a coping mechanism. Like it always has been for me. Like self-deprecating humor has always been a coping mechanism for me. If something bad happens in life, like, you know, you break your leg or you break your arm or something, you know, then you make a bunch of jokes about it. Like, oh man, I was going at it too hard or whatever. My arm snapped in half, you know, and you make jokes about that. It's like, now I feel like nowadays people look at that and they're like, okay, that's just in poor taste. That's just terrible. You're just trying to be a dick or you're trying to be a bad person. Or even myself, like I had people that were like attacking me for making a fat joke about myself. And I was like, it's my joke and it's literally about me. There's nobody else involved. And even that was offensive. And I'm like, you know, the reason I do it is because it makes me feel better. And it also surprisingly used to make people feel more comfortable around you. Because and I love that. I love the fact that if you go to a party and you're the guy that sets the boundary right out of the gate, now everybody doesn't have to pussyfoot around you and be all weird. They're like, this is a guy that doesn't take, you know, this shit seriously when it's in a context of comedy, you know, when it's meant to be humorous.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's a tough topic, man. It is. Like we could do a whole episode on Twitch. Actually, not here. We should probably be doing this on Twitch. Yeah. But yeah, no, it is definitely an uncomfortable thing to talk about because humor was way different for us, you know, growing up than it is today. But everything changes, right? It was way different for our grandparents than it was for us, right? It was way different for them. I think it's one of those things that you just have to accept that generation after generation after generation, things are going to evolve and change, and they might not always be in a way that you understand or that you think is productive, but it's going to happen.
If we take this too far, and I feel like there's it's like a slippery slope. Like I said, like I appreciate that people are trying. It's coming from a good place, I think. Like political correctness and blah blah blah. It's coming from a good place. It has a good intent that we should you know, respect each other and be conscious of the feelings of other people. And I do think that that's the core message, but it's being wielded as a weapon and Anthony Hamilton quoted Stephen Fry, and I think this is a good one. It says, "I find that offensive. It has no meaning, it has no purpose, it has no reason to be respected as a phrase. I'm offended by that. Well, so what?" And so I don't want to just stop at, well, so what? It should be right. We should have empathy for our fellow people and say, oh, okay, you're offended by that. Well, I'm curious, like what is it, like why, for one, but then also I can then maybe respect that. Okay, I can't touch on that topic with you, but if we take this to an extreme, if we take it to not maybe its logical conclusion necessarily, but if it goes too far, then we can't have tough conversations.
Right.
Like nobody will want to where can we find or how can we find a place to discuss like tough topics, you know? Like if I'm afraid of offending someone, how can I even ask the question, where can I find help for my addiction? Oh, you can't talk about addiction. My sister died of an opiate overdose. Well,
exactly.
I'm trying not to. Like, you know, I want, like, how can we, like, we can't just not talk about things for fear of hurting other people's feelings all the time. And somebody mentioned balance, right? It is a matter of balance, I think.
I know, but the weights are changing constantly on both sides, so you can never really adjust to it. And you'll be rated later for what you say today based on the new rules, even though those rules didn't exist when you did it. You know what I mean? It's like that becomes a problem.
I think what people miss, a key component to it is something that I've tried to take to heart very much. Is I have a mantra of assume benign intent.
That's actually a really good way to look at it. Yeah. Like don't assume that anybody's trying to be offensive. So they have to go out of their way to declare that as the intent. Otherwise it's excused as.
And people are saying like offense is taken, not given, right? Like if I say something and your reaction is one of pain in some fashion, your feelings are hurt or you're offended or whatever the fact, if what I say has hurt you in some fashion, rather than getting upset, and maybe that is your initial reaction. Oh, I'm upset by that. But take a moment and say, okay, did he mean to? Was that the intent?
Yeah.
And sometimes, and that's not to blanket things, and there are times where people do intend to be an asshole. They do intend
like the
to
law,
hurt people, and they that is their intent, is to drag people down and to genuinely make fun of them because they don't like these sorts of people and they think that they are other and things like that. These people exist and they do that. But for just a moment, assume, because most people are not assholes. Most people don't want to hurt other people and in return do not want to be hurt. And so like I think that's where things have gotten kind of out of whack, is they aren't taking the moment to like, are they attacking me on purpose, or is my perception filter making me interpret it that way?
It's like context has been thrown out. Like you could, the whole concept of read a room, right? Like when somebody's talking, from the inflections in their voice, you can figure out intent. From situational awareness, you can figure out intent. Your environment, you can figure out intent. There's all these things that clearly label something as what its true meaning is supposed to be, right? Maybe like if you were in a classroom and you were learning about history and somebody said a really terrible word, but it was in the context of phrasing somebody that is a terrible person to make sure history doesn't repeat itself, that would be context sensitive. But if you take context out of the picture, then no matter what the situation, it's offensive, then how does anybody have that conversation? Like comedy, when you go into a comedy show, it'll say like 18 plus. It'll say this is for adults only or whatever. And then you go in there and then you're offended that the guy's like, fuck this and fuck that and everything like that. You're like, oh my God, it's just potty humor. And this was so stupid. It's like, you literally went in there knowing what it was. Like it says right on the door, like this guy is known for shock humor. His goal is to hear the audience go, oh, a million times. That's like why people go to watch him. And you're going to watch him knowing that he's going to do those things so that you can be offended and take him out of context. And unfortunately, that happens a lot these days. It's like, know the context and know the intent, right? It's like, if I walk up to you and you're my buddy and you're my friend or whatever, and I'm like, dude, you're looking like a fat ass when I'm 3 times your weight, I'm being ironic. But then you do that and somebody hears it in earshot or whatever, and they don't take into context and they don't see the interaction. They come out swinging like, why would you say that? That's so disrespectful, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure he's so worried about his weight. It's like, hello, read the room. Like, I'm obviously being facetious because I'm 3 times his size. It's like my friends, whenever I see my friends, it's like, I'll walk up to them and go, man, you look like you put on some weight, bro, or whatever. And it's like, because I put on like 100 pounds since they see me before COVID, and it's funny. And then they'll start laughing. And it's like, I feel like that people would get that before, like people would understand that and think that it was funny, and it would kind of like loosen up the room. And then people wouldn't be so, awkward being around you. And nowadays it's like, no, man, you do that. And unless it's behind closed doors and with somebody, man, you'll have like 3 people come out like at a party. They'll just come out of you like, hey, you shouldn't say that. That's really offensive and self-deprecating. And and it's like, that wasn't the intent. The intent was to get them to laugh. Everybody laughed but you. Right. Like it's like just read the room. But unfortunately now it seems like if you're offended, you get the high ground automatically. Like that's just it. If you're offended, you immediately get the high ground. Doesn't matter what you're offended for. Doesn't matter what the context is. If you are the person that feels like you were wronged by hearing something or misunderstanding something, or you immediately get the high ground, and everybody else has to be like, oh man, I'm so sorry that this happened. You know what I mean? It's like, and I'm not defending bad, like really truly bad situations. I'm talking about like innocent jokes, people having banter back and forth. When I go see Lisa Lampanelli, I want to hear her make jokes about like 5 guys running a train on her. That's literally her comedy style. But nowadays it's like people would go to that thing and instantly be offended. Like, you are setting women back 100 years by saying these things and you are killing women's rights. Like, no, she is empowered as fuck. She's getting up there. She owns this room. Everybody in here paid to come and see her. Nobody is, you know, she is not the victim here. Like, oh my gosh. But anyways, it is a hard topic to talk about and probably not something that's like totally appropriate for tech talk. But at the same time, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, sometimes we go off and we talk about some serious things. But this is one that I think people should roll around in the back of their head a little bit is don't look for offense. Like, don't let that be the primary goal. And I feel like even me to some degree, it's like I've even been conditioned from just seeing it over and over again that I'll get offended by stuff. And I'm like, why am I just out of the gate automatically get it before I've asked a question, before I've talked it through, before I've tried to figure it out? It's like, why is this the default action to just be offended? And the reason is because if you're offended, everybody else is going to jump on and you're going to get a lot of attention and a lot of likes and a lot of retweets and a lot of that. And you're rewarded for it because drama gets engagement. And whether that was your intent or not, you realize that whenever I'm offended or whenever I'm mad or whenever I'm going off on somebody else or I'm being like, you know, a social justice warrior on some level, then people flock to me and put me on a pedestal and talk about how, like, you know, I'm the new world warrior and I'm Braveheart. And I think that that's causing a problem. That's sending a really bad message to a lot of people.
Yeah, this should definitely be something we dive into because, like,
we should.
Like, man, so Villa Bongs just mentioned I truly hate cancel culture, and so that's a whole nother side of this or another facet to this same thing, and like, I feel like on one hand, it's more consequence culture, right? Yeah. In a way. But again, there have been times where I think it has been taken too far. People digging up 10, 12, 15-year-old content and like not taking into account that, like, maybe this person isn't, like, I'm not the kind of guy I was 10 years ago. I probably did. Actually, I know I have done things that I am not happy or proud of.
Millions.
And they hang on me. I know the kind of person that I was and the things that I've done, and I am not that person anymore. Yeah. But if those things were to come to light today,
you're ruined.
That would drastically alter the way people view me today.
Yeah.
I am not that person now. I made a mistake.
Yeah, we're lucky that our childhood and like teenage years and stuff aren't on the internet, but unfortunately that's not true for the new generations. The new generations are going to revisit and be like, oh, when you were 12 years old or something like that, you set that house on fire or whatever. You're always going to be known as the arsonist. And it's like, you were just playing with matches. Like nobody taught you any better. You were experiencing. And that's the thing is like, this is where I was talking about earlier, where it's like time moves, right? The rules change. Right. After you've already done the fixed action that can't be changed. Right. But the thing is, if you don't let people learn, that's the biggest one. If you don't let people learn and grow and you always hold them. And I actually, this kind of hits close to home because my mom used to do this to my dad all the time because I kind of grew up in an abusive household and my dad made a mistake when I was really, really young. Like actually he made a lot of mistakes, but he made this mistake and my mom would always bring that mistake up didn't matter what he did. If it was within the context, didn't matter if he got too drunk one night or something. My mom would always bring up this one thing basically that he could never escape. Like it was the mistake that I'm going to hold this over you till the day you die. And the problem is like when you do that to somebody, they know they can never, ever overcome it and they can never become better than that. And so they don't. Yeah. Like they literally they're like, why even try? Like, why even try to be a better person? And it's like, I feel bad because there's a lot of people that are raised, like, for instance, like the Westboro Baptist Church that say and do horrible things. And then they escape later on. They realize what they did was wrong. They learn outside of the church and they escape the church and they get out of this cult. And then you're still going to have people that are going to dig them back, holding up a sign and saying terrible things like 10 years ago, no matter what they've done to change themselves and learn from that experience and even help other people escape that void. If you just keep beating them to death with that, then nobody can ever escape that. And everybody's indoctrinated for life and you're never going to get another person out of that cult. Yeah. So you have to be able to allow people to grow and you have to be able to allow them to change. Now, obviously there's exceptions. Like if you do really, really terrible things and you keep doing the terrible things over and over and over again, okay, fine. You had a chance to grow multiple times. You didn't, you're still doing the same shit. Okay, be rated for it. But yeah, no, I agree with you that I think that it's really terrible that a lot of people just have their pasts dug up. And it's like, we're fortunate enough that we, you know, when we were young, there was hardly internet, right?
Yeah.
I mean, internet, like when I was 12 years old, internet was like, you know, a 14.4 connection dial up to shell account. It's like there was no social media. It was like IRC, and it was like completely anonymous. And it's like nowadays, unfortunately, you know, with image recognition, you can take a picture of somebody, go do a reverse image lookup on like Google and Bing and find like every image that's ever been posted on that picture online for like the last 12 years. And it's just going to keep getting worse and worse to where pretty soon it's just, you know, somebody's name. And like, you know, around the time that they were born, like, and you put it in, you just find them, you click on them, and basically you have the entire docs of that person's entire life, everything that they've ever done wrong. And I think that if people just beat everybody over the head with that continuously, nobody's ever going to get better. And the only course is, if you can't go up, you're just going to go down, you know? Yeah. And that's sad. And I feel the same way. It's like, there's shit. I can't think of anybody that I know that doesn't have bad shit in their past where they made bad decisions that they regretted. But that was also a huge learning point for them too, because it's by doing the bad thing and understanding how bad that thing is. Like one, I'll even openly say, I used to be like a murderous little rampage son of a bitch when I was a kid. I got my BB gun. I went and killed like every woodland creature I could find for like 6 months. I was just like this. And you know what, as I started to realize like the gravity of what I was doing, and I started becoming more aware of like animals and pets and understanding animals are intelligent and stuff like that, I was like, nope, never hunting again. I put it away. I was like, nope, I'm never killing another thing again unless I have to defend myself. Like I will never. And so I made that decision, but it was because I had that experience as a kid. All my friends were doing it. Everybody was doing it. You know, I grew up in this Christian mentality that everybody, you know, all animals are just here as man's plaything anyway. And so it took a while for me to figure out like how bad that was, but boy, did it hit me hard. It was one of those things where it's like, I shot a bird once and it was like flopping around on the ground because I didn't kill it with the first shot. Every other thing I shot, boom, one shot, dude. When I saw one suffer, that completely changed my entire outlook. After that, but the thing is that provided me with a life of empathy now, to where it's like, I now understand the value of life, and I do what I can to try to make sure that animals don't suffer. Like I'm really big on that, right? I can't stand to see an animal suffer. It kills my heart. And so that wouldn't have happened probably if I grew up in that environment, unless I had that traumatic experience. And so I'm not saying it's a good thing or a bad thing. I'm just saying that I had to learn from that. But if everybody just said, oh, you're just this murderous person, or you just murder animals and torture animals, like 30 years later, after everything good that I've done for them, and like even helping my mom with like conservation and stuff like that, if that was all I was ever known for, would I keep being the good person, or would I just say, no, I'm just going to go back to being like a murderous bastard, since that's all I'm allowed to be? You know, so I think that we need to take into account when people have done bad things, that they should be able to learn from that within reason. They should be able to learn from that, and they should be able to grow with it. And if they don't, then yeah, fucking throw the book at them. I mean, obviously, if you don't learn from your mistakes and you just keep on making them, then yeah, you deserve to be rated on. But don't, you know, I just feel bad because I feel like this generation has everything online, and oh my God, it's already happening today, but just think like another 5 or 10 years. Like you're gonna have kids that their entire lives, like whether it be their family posting pictures of them, you know, doing embarrassing things, or their pants fall down, or they run into a wall and they post it to TikTok, and they're like, and then somebody goes back and links it up. It's like, oh, 30-year-old Jimmy, oh, the guy that runs into the screen glass door every day, lols, oh, don't run into that door. That guy's gonna be so fucking traumatized from something that he had no control over and doesn't even remember because he was so young. You know what I mean? And it's like, oh my God, that's happened already. You've heard about the meme kids, right?
Oh, sure. Oh, yeah.
Like the story of the meme kids is like, I don't think a single one of them came out of it unscathed. Every single person that's become a meme, even if it was somewhat of a I don't know if you have a positive meme, but the ones that aren't as bad, like Star Wars kid, for instance. Yeah. That haunted that dude. Yeah. Like that was not like that was not like, oh my God, you're the most famous person in the world, blah, blah. That was like every single person saw him is like a buffoon and an idiot and made fun of him, and everybody on the street was like, you know, I mean, that was bad. That was really bad for him. And so you see a lot of these meme kids, they grow up, they change their look, they change everything about their life to try to escape that. Oh yeah. Because it's not a positive experience. And now multiply that by everybody on the planet in the next 10 years, right? Everybody on some level is going to be the meme kid. And that's sad. That's actually really sad. Hey, can you take the reins for a second while I go drain the trouser weasel? Yeah. All right, I'll be right back. Right on. Right on. I like the encouragement. Yeah.
Oh man, it's hard. It's really hard. Man, it's just, I don't know. It's tough. Life, navigating these the way things are now, I guess. The article says 2 nanometer is an industry term and not based on measurement. What? Hold on. I was just looking at it. Let me see here. So I'm looking at Tom's Hardware. I'm not sure what link Jerry originally had, but yeah, let's just jump into it. This way we can just get right into it. IBM research unveiled a new 2 nanometer chip with nanosheet technology today that will serve as the underpinning of its future process technology. Blah 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 blah. Nanos 2 nanometer sheet, no longer pass produce. Comes in process, improve this and that. Chips 50 billion for size of a fingernail. So,
you look at the 2 nanometer.
That's true. That's true. This is actually something that comes up often enough when talking about like AMD's 7 nanometer process and things like that. It isn't I think it used to be based on the actual physical size of the transistors. That isn't the case anymore. I guess it says here it's developed based on the power consumption and performance of comparable process nodes from third-party foundries, meaning that modern chip nanometer naming is largely a marketing exercise that's an industry-wide problem that isn't confined to IBM. So yeah, the transistors aren't necessarily 2 nanometers.
Because I thought it was like the pathways or something, like the etching, the etched pathways, because that's what the ultra lithography process does, is it lays the pathways down on the silica substrate. So it's like the closer they are together, right, the smaller the nanometer. So it's like, think of like a projector resolution. It goes up in resolution, you have more pixels. The image
that they're showing on Tom's Hardware, this is the link. I'll put it in the chat.
I want to see this.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, nanometer is a new TDP. It doesn't mean anything, but it isn't quite the physical thing, but you can see
50 billion transistors. Oh my god, dude.
What are we looking at here?
That's some density right there.
So let's see. First image, blah blah, comes into video. You'll notice markedly different from the third image. Where's the third image?
And the transistor is just a solid state relay, right?
Yeah, it's just on-off switch, basically.
That's what I thought.
Which is super, I know, like a super like reduction, but they only show 2 images in this little slide thing. So I'm not sure what third up above. Okay.
Oh, they're saying, okay, never mind. So the picture that I see on the page is they're showing that the nanometer could be in width or height. And so the 2 nanometer is like the depth, because they're stacking these things, right? It's multiple layers on a wafer. So like each layer is then, it's kind of like the Z-axis on a 3D printer, right? They're making thinner and thinner layers so they can put more and more on them with more heat dissipation.
I think again, I don't think it's necessarily a physical measurement anymore, but it does look like they're able to, from these pictures, it does look like the wafers are closer together. They are smushing them, but again, I don't think it is like specifically or like really technically 2 nanometers.
So here it says IBM's 2 nanometer process is also the first to use EUV lithography on the front end of line, or FEOL portion of the chip, where the transistors and associated structures are created, nanosheets and gates. In contrast, currently shipping transistor technology uses EUV patterning in the middle of the line, or MOL, and back of the line stages that compromise the interconnect and packaging portions of the chip respectively. So it just sounds to me like they're able to use this technology on the bottom, the middle, and the top, whereas everybody else is just doing it on like the middle and the bottom. It's really weird. Yeah, it's like each layer. I mean, the images that they're showing, it does seem like this is like a marketing play. It's not implying that everything on the chip is 2 nanometer. It's not even implying that it can etch at 2 nanometer. It's just saying the distance between them based on stacking on top of each other. Could be
Well,
2 nanometer.
even then, it isn't 2 nanometers. They're each nano sheet measures 5 nanometers by 40 with a 12 nanometer gate length. So like the 2 nanometer thing isn't actually tied
So
to
this
a
is the same
physical dimension.
This is the same shit as back in the day where they were like, oh, 2 32-bit processors makes a system 64-bit.
Right.
It doesn't really. This is like 2 5 nanometer processors offset like this makes it 2 nanometer.
Right, so you
basically.
can kind of smoosh,
Okay.
It is.
So it is a marketing gimmick, basically.
Yeah. It has more to do with power usage and performance, I guess.
So my question is, okay, so IBM has this process worked out. Now, first of all, there's only 3 companies in the world that make, well, there might be a 4th now with Intel that make the machines that can make these things.
Yeah.
The ultra lithography or whatever that they use to do this is like an incredibly well guarded secret that you know, countries have invested trillions of dollars over the last 50 years trying to figure out how to do this shit. And I think Intel, they said they've successfully done it at 7 nanometer, but I don't think they're in production yet, which is good. I mean, 5 nanometer. My bad. Intel I think can do 5 nanometer. They're claiming.
Yeah, because I think Alder Lake coming this year is 10,
which means the United States of America will get its first real foundries. So just so you guys know, the foundries are like where all chips start life. Like every single electronic device that you have that has a CPU or a GPU in it or some kind of processing unit, every single one of those little chips that has to be formed with this ultra lithography process all start life from a machine that's made from like 3 companies.
Yeah.
It's like TSMC. What's the other one? There's 3 of them. There's like, I think it's like South Korea, China, and I don't know if Japan.
Well,
Japan might have one too.
Taiwan's
Taiwan.
TSMC. I think most of these foundries are in Taiwan.
Yeah. So TSMC, and then Intel is the one that's supposed to be a game changer. And even with their new technology, ASML, that's what it is. So ASML, Samsung, and TSMC are the established ones.
Yeah.
They have been doing this for a while. And then you have, and even so, one of those can only do 14 nanometer. So, and then Intel is supposed to be the new leader if their 5 nanometer process works. But if they're capable of doing that, then then we'll have foundries here in the United States because we'll be able to actually export chips, because we'll be able to create chips that are arguably more compact and more power efficient than any of these other machines in the world. And these machines are stupid expensive. Oh my God. A used machine is over $130 million.
Oh, dude, yeah.
For one machine in a foundry, and you need more than one. One isn't going to create enough to do anything.
That's why it's kind of goofy to hear Intel's like, oh, we're dropping $20 billion to build to bring chip manufacturing to the US. And it's like, that's like 2 fabs.
Yeah, that's a deal, dude. Like literally, that's garage sale money for this kind of shit.
But I love that TSMC's like, you know what? We're going to do 100 billion and we're going to start building our fab right, like almost literally in the backyard of where Intel's building their fab in Arizona. It's like TSMC's like, okay, we got you, bud.
Right. Actually, Bezin made a good point. He said ASML isn't a foundry. Sorry, when I'm saying foundry, I'm talking about the places where the chips start life.
Fabs.
But the machine that makes them obviously is made by another company. The companies that make these specialized machines, and some of them don't even sell them. Some of them just lease them.
Yeah.
Like they're still there and they control them because they don't want anybody opening them up and reverse engineer them. Like, I don't know how you would, though. These things are so remarkably complex. Oh my God. Like, you think going to space is hard? No. Yeah. No. The things, because the process, like, it's not well known. Like, if you go on YouTube and you do a search for like ultra lithography, like there's a couple of videos that kind of explain it, but they don't go deep at all. Like, because nobody really knows how they're achieving this beyond their molten tin and a laser striking the molten tin 50 times a second and vaporizing it. And it creates this wavelength of light that comes off of this molten tin when they vaporize it. And that wavelength of light is the nanometers, the width of the wavelengths of light is the nanometers that they're impressioning onto the plate, basically, or etching onto the plate at like a microscopic level. And it's like a machine that can do this. It's just like, it blows my mind. And it's funny because it actually uses molten tin. It literally drips tin. Like the way they explained it on YouTube is it's literally a machine that melts a block of pure tin, and then a drop of pure tin falls down, and they time it where the laser shoots the tin, vaporizes the tin, and then when the tin vaporizes, it lets off these UV photons in a wavelength that's in nanometers. And that
Yeah.
wavelength of light is so tight that when it's hitting the processor, you're basically engraving it like a laser. Think of a laser pointer, that the tip is
Dang.
so focused that you can't see it. Like even
Right.
like it takes an electron microscope to see the damn dot.
It's crazy.
And so the shit is so crazy, but not very many companies have figured out how to do this. And arguably they all use a very similar process, which begs the question, did the first people that figure it out just get copied? Like, was there espionage? Did they just develop it? Because they all work on the same principle. You'd think like one of them would be like, oh, we created a machine that doesn't use molten tin. It uses something else. No, they all use this exact same process as far as any information that I can find online. And the better resolution that they're achieving or whatever is through just like tweaking of the machine, right? It's through optimization of the machine. And it's just wild to think, but there's like even physical limitations on that because the wavelength of light that they can get off. You can only make a pathway that's as big as the wavelength of the light. So if the wavelength of the light is 7 nanometer, you can't get any smaller than that.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
so
neat.
now they're talking about like, okay, how do we have that? Right. Like what, can we take that 7 nanometer now and put it through like some kind of a prism optic and drop it down to like, 3.5 nanometer? Like,
crazy.
It's crazy technology. That's why they charge insane amounts of money for it, but you wouldn't have chips without it.
Yeah.
Like modern chips that we have in our computers, GPUs, CPUs, your cell phone, your microwave, your smart fridge, all of these started life, like the components in them started life inside of these damn foundries, inside of these like machines made by a couple of companies. So if Intel pulls this off, it's going to be huge. Like if we get a foundry here in the United States, we're not going to just be creating domestic processors. We're going to be exporting those to other countries.
Oh, for sure.
Like we'll become a powerhouse, but China will steal it in like 5 minutes and have their own machine doing it.
And it's going to be like 5-10 years or something. Somebody mentioned this, that like that's all well and good, but it's not a short-term, hell, it's not even a long-term solution. Like it's great, but it's not like you're going to be buying your next Core i9 that it's going to say manufactured in the USA. It's true. That's it's
the wafer is just the start, right? Like there's a million things that have to happen to that thing before it's a bona fide chip.
Super cool though. I am stoked that to see a what seems to be a huge leap forward, and I think it is gonna make a big difference eventually. But
well, we have to get smaller. But the thing is too is like it's not all gains. We're actually getting to the point now where it's like by the smaller the nanometer, the more crosstalk that you get, and the more crosstalk that you get, or the less power that you can push through something. Oh, did my camera just shit the bed? I think it just did. Hold on, let me see if I can fix this. Oh yeah, I just got to unplug it. It's just USB on this thing being a little bit of a dork lately. So but anyways, it's the shit's wild because if you make a smaller nanometer chip, here, let's see if I can get this turned on now. Where's camera settings? I would like you to use this camera, refresh, and am I back? I am not. Am I back? There I am. Haha, I'm alive. So anyways, like 14 nanometer, for instance, is like what Intel is still using today, right? And you're like, why is Intel using 14 nanometer when AMD has 7 and, Intel now is claiming like their next generation will be 5. The thing is they can't have as high of a frequency or as high as a clock speed on something that's smaller nanometer, right? Because they can't literally push enough power through it without having crosstalk between the channels and creating these like single bit errors. So you end up with something that's much more power efficient. It's much smaller. It puts out less heat, but it also can't have that blistering high clock speed, which for single threaded performance is like critical. So that's why 14 nanometer is still popular even today, even in modern, they're like, oh, that's old news. No, it's like that's why you don't see AMD processors overclocking like Intel processors. Right. The Intel processors can achieve a much higher clock speed. Whereas with smaller nanometer, you go out, right? You have more cores. So it's like more cores versus higher clock speed, but those are two completely different programming methods to achieve performance under those conditions.
And I do think that's going to end up having to be the way. We'll have to just be better at parallel processing. There's going to be a physical limit. Like you can't go any faster.
Yep.
Without burning out like somebody had mentioned, power, heat, burnt traces, like. Or we'll have to develop better ways of cooling so that we can, go faster, that sort of thing. Like these quantum machines that are built in, liquid hydrogen and shit. It's just there's no other way.
I think what we're going to end up with is just hybrid systems like we have today, just even more so. Like we have GPUs and CPUs, right? CPUs are good at doing certain things. GPUs are really good at doing other things. Neither one of them is perfectly suited for the other one's job, right? So I think that that's what you're probably going to have in the future. Like fast forward like 50 years, your desktop computer is probably going to have a quantum core. It's probably going to have a core that's designed for doing binary at the fastest single threaded performance possible. And then you're going to have a shitload of tertiary cores that are designed for doing like multi-threaded stuff in a very specific type of math that's common, you know, kind of like your what a tensor cores or whatever that you have on your Nvidia card. And I think you're just going to have a computer that basically has all these different processing units that are all uniquely designed to do their own little task. Kind of like today, you have a sound card, right? And your sound card's built to handle sound and process sound the best way. Your graphics card, it's designed to do the graphic shit and like the number crunching. Your CPU is good for running the operating system and managing all these background services and stuff like that require a high single thread performance. And so I think that you're probably going to end up in a situation where it's actually better to just have all the different types of processing power and then seamlessly put them together so that the compiler is figuring out what the best thing is to use at any given time versus just having one thing. Just like the M1. The M1 processor is awesome from Apple because it has like some cores that are really blistering fast, and then it has a bunch of other cores that are way more power efficient, but they're slower. And so they did like this tiered approach to it. And then they have hardware instructions for x86 so that you can, you know, you don't have to emulate everything like you would on ARM that would be really slow. And now you get comparable performance to bare metal running x86 code natively on an ARM processor. It's like they decided that fuck making an ARM chip. Like, let's make a chip that's just all the best worlds of everything put into one. And it's working out really well for them.
Yeah, it's man, I don't know. It's super weird. I could see. Like I kind of think AMD's on a good track with their chiplet design. I think it's smart. I definitely think that ARM is going to play a much bigger role in the near term, or I suppose like medium term, 5-10-ish years. Apple's doing a good thing, I think, in proof of concept sort of with it.
Yeah. I agree. ARM is the future. That's why I was like deathly afraid of Nvidia getting their hands on it, because I don't want them owning the GPU market and the CPU market. Like that's a dangerous place to be for innovation.
They'll have to like split it off or something. Or if Nvidia ends up with it, they'll put a bunch of restrictions and stuff so that they have to play ball and whatnot.
Yeah. Hey, I want to read a couple of these super chats. Did you get to this earlier while I was gone, or did
no?
Okay. So Pup Shepherd, thank you for the $5. Said Wags, yeah, TV isn't funny anymore. Late night shows lately have been playing it safe. It's been harder to find edgy stuff. People are going political too. I mean, yeah, no, I mean, it's true. Like I watch a lot of late night too. And it's like, you know, they don't come anywhere close. Like, and you can see the decline over time, right? Like since Johnny Carson, right? It's like, you can tell like each generation plays it a little bit safer and a little bit safer and a little bit safer. And I don't know. It's unfortunate. I think it's just one of those things too, where it's like, this happens every generation. Like this is just now we're the old guys that are complaining about it. Right. So I think ultimately it's like the kids get the pick, right? Like the next generation gets the pick and it changes, but I don't think we're headed in a super healthy direction when it comes to stuff like that. But you know, time will tell. Eric G, thank you for the $2. Said, hi guys, hope you're having a good weekend. I mean, other than being like really tired and the worst sleep of my life last night, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. I always look forward to seeing this guy though. Like this is the highlight of my week. Let's see here. Michael Hauser, thank you for the $5. Said, the problem is with the majority of people, especially of the far older generations, when they're told they did something wrong, they deny it was even bad in the first place. But here's the thing too, is it's like sometimes others not. Sometimes they're right. Like that's the whole point, is like if you are telling somebody that's old that everything they did in their life was completely wrong and was bad, even when in the time that they did it, it was considered, you know, whether it's viewed bad today, they were raised and programmed and taught to do those things. And if they didn't grow beyond it, then okay, that's fucking on them. But my point being is they might not be wrong on everything. Yeah. Like in case in point, like, you know, humor, for instance, like we're talking about right now. Like, who gets to decide that that's suddenly wrong, and the other person has to submit that, okay, I can never be comfortable around another person. I can never speak freely again in public. I can never speak around another person and be honest with them without risking being offensive or anything like that. It's like, are they really wrong in that situation? So it doesn't necessarily, I guess what I'm saying is the majority ultimately decides what's wrong, right? I mean, that's how it happens in any country or any society. That's kind of how it works, even in a democracy, right? You're always going to have people that disagree on everything, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have to concede that they were wrong on something if what they were doing was not meant to be evil or wasn't meant with ill intent. Like you may think it was today, and you may want them to change but if that wasn't the intent that they had, then I don't see why they have to like diminish themselves or punish themselves or say that they were wrong, right, in certain situations. So, but again, it's definitely a spectrum, which makes it hard. Like, it is a moving target. Things do change. And old people can be stubborn. Like, I mean, honestly, they've lived a life of experience and they were programmed from day one to believe respect your elders. There's no substitute for experience. And if you're younger, you're automatically less experienced, which means that you should listen to your elders. Like, I was raised with that shit. And I don't believe any of that. Yeah. Like, I don't believe that for a second. Like, I know people that are 18 years old that are infinitely more 12 years old that are infinitely more intelligent than people that are 80 years old. Like, age does not matter in that context. But I can understand like why old people think the way they do because of the environment that they were raised in and the things that were indoctrinated into them and the things that they did and the coping mechanisms that they had to do to deal with that shit. Like, for instance, like what happens? Like so I eat meat, right? Sure. What happens if in 50 years the world just outlaws eating meat or whatever, and it's considered animal abuse and everything, and now everybody's like, you're an animal abuser and an animal murderer, and you should be shot and you should be killed for eating meat and stuff. And it's like, but I was raised eating meat. Like, my parents put it in my mouth, told me that's what I ate, and that was my food source. And this book told me it was okay, and these people told me it was okay, and it was all part of this thing. But now you guys all decided that it's not okay anymore. I'm older than shit and already lived my life, and you know, it's like, in that situation, what do you do? Like, what can you really do in that situation? I mean, and that's what I'm sad for, is I feel like no matter what you do today, at some point in the future, it's going to be bad, right? It will be bad. Yeah. Like everything we're talking about here, like this tech talk, everything I've talked in every live stream, every video I've made, at some point in time, it might be a year, it might be 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 100 years. It might be long after I'm dead, right? But at some point, every single thing that I've done by a future generation, at least for a period of time, is going to be seen as wrong and offensive. Yeah. And I just hope that I'm dead when my turn comes around. Like,
it's the perspective, right?
It is. It's all perspective.
Like I had a conversation once, like the prompt was like, I think it was something like, I don't know. The prompt was like the morality of the Japanese internment camps in World War II.
Yeah.
Was it right? Was it right to do that?
Hell no.
From our perspective.
Correct. Exactly.
So, and I kind of had a back and forth with somebody about this, because they were on the side of, well, yes, like they did the right thing. And I, of course, I'm with you. I said, no, that was bad, right?
Different generation. We weren't there.
And so I brought up, well, would it have been right for us to do that would it have been right for us to round up all the Muslims after 9/11 and put them all into, I don't know, a shed somewhere in Texas or something? Well, no. So, how what's the difference? And it was hard for them to kind of articulate it, but it did come down to, eventually we got to the point of perspective. It was right at the time. Looking back through a current lens, sure, it is bad and was wrong to do, but at the time they saw it as right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing, right? It's like the lens, the filters change.
Or like drugs. Like drugs is a good example of this too, because it's like, you know, back in the 30s, you had like 13-year-old, 12-year-old kids running around snorting Benzedrine, which is like a really, really hardcore, like meth level stimulant that's been outlawed for years now and is considered a very, very, high class narcotic. And you just bought it over. You didn't have to be an adult. You bought it over the counter. It was basically for a decongestant, and everybody got hooked on it. And everybody was running around. All the laborers in the world were just snorting Benzedrine every day for like 20 years until it was finally outlawed, because it was literally like killing people and causing heart attacks and birth defects and all kinds of shit. But it's like, at the time, they're like, oh man, I put this in my nose and I snort it and I feel better. I work harder. I'm a happier person. But it's like, now you look back on it, you're like, oh my God, that's horrible. Like everybody back then was a fucking drug addict. But in the context of when they did it, no, they weren't. And I'm sure the same thing will happen with our generation. Like in another 50 years, they'll probably find out that caffeine is like responsible for like 90% of all cancers on the planet. There'll be some science, and I'm just speculating. Like I don't think that's the case, but but stranger things have happened, right? Like they look at it and they're like, okay, we find out that caffeine is the main cause of cancer because it causes like your cells to get all fucking wonked out or whatever, and they start reproducing wrong or whatever. And they have hard science to prove it. And they're like, if we just stop drinking coffee, cancer goes away. They're going to look at the previous generation and be like, oh my God, all those people were literally just committing suicide and like killing themselves just to wake up a little in the morning.
Yeah.
And it's like, but that wasn't their perspective. Like you see that today is that, but back then to them, it didn't look that way.
Yeah.
It's a hard topic though, because man, time is, you should be judged on things within the context of when they happen. You really should. Just like war. I mean, war, unfortunately, is another one of these things. It's like in World War II, it's like people were like just going around stabbing each other with bayonets and blowing each other up with bombs. And we do this like in war, right? And it's like now in modern warfare, it's like we fly over and drop bombs, you know, all the engagements are like from, you know, thousands of yards apart. Not all of them, but you know what I mean? It's like, it's a very impersonal thing now. Back then it was like a whole different animal. Like war was a whole different animal. But back then people came home after killing, you know, thousands of people, and they're like, they were heroes. They were given parades and everything was great. And it's like today now you come back from war and it's like everybody's spitting on you and telling you, oh, you're a terrible person and you're a murderer. And it's like, but these people were like programmed to do that. You know, they were taught to be these killing machines. They actually went over there and did something that your government ordered them to do. And now you're attacking them, and they come back with like PTSD and they're like abandoned and we don't do shit with them. It's so terrible to look at this stuff because it's like from their context in their mind, how do you justify like just killing another human being? It's like, well, go through some brainwashing, go through some training, anybody can be taught to do anything given the right circumstances and the right inputs and the right outputs. Yeah. And time is just another input, right? It's like, depending on the time you're in, things are frowned upon. Like today, it's like, shit, watch. Like today, we're like, fuck ISIS and kill ISIS. We'll find out in like 50 years or whatever. Oh, ISIS was just a minority group fighting for their right to survive. And anybody that tried to kill them was bad, you know, and you're going to be like, fuck, you know, old people are going to be like, what the fuck are you talking about? They blew up the building. Oh, only because you guys provoked them. You know, it's going to be, depending on the time, everybody's going to have a different lens. And the problem is that lens that those people have didn't experience it. You did. And I think that's why old people, you know, have a tendency, not all, I'm not trying to put them all in a category, but by why old people seem to like kind of stand by and become more firm in their stance on things as time goes on is because they actually were there and like lived through it and have a radically different perspective than what you learned through the books or from your teachers that didn't go through it, you know? So it's an interesting, it's definitely a topic that I would love to dig into deep one of these days. Cause it's one of those things that's kind of like taboo. People don't want to talk about it. It's considered, you know, a little bit dangerous because people are going to get offended and stuff like that. But I think it's important that we talk about those things and we never stop talking about those things, because as soon as we get to the point where none of us will talk to each other, it's game over, man. That's game over for society as we know it. Because if the only way to communicate is through a curated vehicle online, and that's the only contact that we ever have with each other, and it's all perfectly curated, then how can any of us ever form educated opinions on anything? We can't.
It'll just blah.
It'll just be blah. It'll suck. Let's see here. Michael Hauser. Already read that one. Thank you for the $5, man. We appreciate that. Michael Fernald, thank you for the $5. Said, living in Massachusetts, being center on political spectrum has become a sin. Yeah, depending on where you live, that's kind of a thing, right? I mean, a lot of people depend on where you live, whether it be blue, red, independent, whatever. It's like if you fall outside the realm of the majority, you know, you're usually shunned. You know, and that's a sad thing that we deal with too. And I mean, I'll even say that I'm even guilty of it. You know, I've had family members that have had different political views than me, and I was just like, no, fuck it. Like, I'm done. I'm not going to talk to you anymore but the other thing too is from their perspective, they wouldn't have those views unless they thought they were right. So obviously the information that they have and the things that are driving their decision, just like flat earthers and Scientologists and everything, it's like from their perspective, nobody's going to do something they don't think is right, like unless they're being forced to or they're benefiting from it in some way. Like they think what they're doing is right, and then you have to play devil's advocate and be like, "Am I the right one though?" From my perspective, I experience everything as me, so everything that I know and everything I do obviously is right, like from my perspective. But because somebody else is wrong, from their perspective, they're right and I'm the wrong one. So you start playing like that little game in your head. It's like we're all just products of how we're raised and what we learn, and we're all just computers that, you know, have a hard drive that fills up with data, and that data dictates everything that we can think and everything we can feel. And I just feel like we're in a situation where we keep getting more and more divided, and as groups will not talk to each other, those groups become more solidified in their ways and their experiences, and then their views, they can't see other people's views at all because they're just stuck.
Like no empathy.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. Totally. Like I keep having people like on Twitter, anytime I show anything like, you know, a tweet with like, there's another police shooting or something, I get like a million comments that are like, all police are evil and they're all kill everybody. We need to rise up against the police. They're new terrorists or whatever. And it's like, whoa. Like there are a lot of bad cops. There absolutely are. When you give somebody that kind of power, you're going to have a lot of people that abuse it. Like you're literally giving somebody dominion over other human beings. There's going to be bad guys, but they're not all bad. If they were all bad, trust me, you wouldn't be safe in your house right now. Like they'd literally be like looting your house and like killing your family members every night and going home with trophies. It's like, they're not all bad, but there are bad ones. And we need to focus on why they're bad, figure out how to fix the environment so it doesn't allow them or incentivize them being bad, and create, you know, and work on it that way, instead of just saying, oh, fucking, let's throw the baby out with the bathwater and everybody's bad. And I feel like that's what we do now. Same thing with like, terrorists attack something. It's like, oh, all Muslims are bad. Fuck no, they're not, man. I got a lot of Muslim friends. They're awesome people. Yeah. And it's like, people just don't see that, because it's like when you watch on TV every single day, it's like cops. You know, it's like people wonder why is there so much racism right now? Dude, I grew up with cops, and all they did was air like 90% like black people being arrested for like low level drug charges or being racially profiled and getting the shit kicked out of them. Like if that's all you watch on TV every single day of your childhood and you grow up, you're probably going to start drawing some bad conclusions, but it's because you had bad data. And that's the worst thing that you can do. Like in science is if you have bad data, you will have garbage results. That is the way it is. So you have to have like a diverse set of data. And I feel like we're heading in a direction where there is no diverse data anymore, because if you entertain any other data than the group that you happen to be in, then you become an outcast and you become a target. So everybody has to kind of like pair off into their little cliques, and we all become these little micro countries all fighting each other. And it's sad to watch, man. It's really sad to watch.
Yeah. I know. I think I've said this before. It's like a lot of the time these things, like break apart is because people have man, maybe it's a subconscious or whatever, but they don't discuss these topics from an angle of trying to learn, and they take it from an angle of trying to change the other person's mind. And you can't pull someone onto your path. You know, you can't, like, you can't, if someone has decided that on a thing, whatever, you can't, and they'll just dig their heels in. Like
that's what I've noticed. And I'm guilty of that. I'm really guilty of that. And just hitting my limit and being like, you know what? Like, you're doing a lot of really terrible shit and supporting a lot of people doing a lot of terrible shit. I'm just done with you. But from their perspective, looking at me, they think I'm the problem. They think that I'm the one that's doing the wrong thing, because, you know, their data has been curated, you know, and that's unfortunate. Like when that happens and you have a group of people that their data is curated and they're not allowed to venture out and collect any more data beyond that, you have to understand that their views, it's not that they're trying to be difficult. It's not that they're trying, it's just from what they believe, they are 100% sure that they are right, because the data tells them that they're right. And it's like, how do you, without having a conversation, how do you work that out without trading data and trading information and going back and forth and educating? And even if you still disagree at the end, you walk away with different data, right? Each time you're picking up another little piece of data that helps form your views. But if you're unwilling to ever transfer that data in the first place, and everybody's just like, nope, this is my solidified data set, and anything going against that would be sacrilege, or entertaining anything outside of that be sacrilege, you're never going to change. You can't. Your data is garbage in, garbage out, right? As somebody in chat said. Yeah. And actually, one of the biggest things that I think is really dangerous, and I see this online a lot, is if everybody has a default position of being offended. So if everybody's default position is, I want to be offended, so everything that you say, it's going to be analyzed first and foremost is this offensive before anything else. What you do is you end up creating a group of people that will not talk to each other out of fear of being offensive. Yep. And like, let me give you an example. You go to a party, right? Let's say you see somebody in the corner of the room that's a different race than you. and you're like, I don't want to go over and talk to them because I may be offensive. I may say something unwillingly, or I may say something taken out of context. I may offend them. So I'm just going to avoid that person. Or even worse yet, you go over and you just pander to that person and you only say things that you think are politically correct and will make them like you, but it's not you. It's not you. You're literally altering yourself to create a safe space for that person. That person can never know you. There can never be a connection. There can never be a dialogue. And then if everybody does that and keeps multiplying and everybody breaks off into their safe groups, like where you get to the party and it's like you have to pick your little tag up. And it's like, okay, you're a red, blue / you got to go over to that group over there to be compatible. If you can't have those conversations, you can't be comfortable like walking up to people, like meeting new people and having a conversation without them immediately trying to take the high ground and become offended, then people are just going to avoid communication. And I'm already seeing it today. That's a big thing that I've been seeing a lot of today, especially with COVID and everybody being at home and online, is you see people literally just avoiding the conversation altogether. Like, no, I'm out. Just I'm out. I'm not going to talk about this. I'm not going to do that. Okay, this person. And I've seen it happen with, people that are like gay, lesbian, trans, race, gender, all of it. You see these people that just they intentionally avoid situations where they communicate with each other because they're afraid that they might say or do something that would be seen as offensive, even though that's not the intent. And I've even had it happen to myself. And I'm a huge proponent for everybody. Like I'm like team, everybody should be able to be themselves. Everybody should be able to have their culture, and people should coexist, and people should be allowed to disagree. Obviously I have things that I'm even bad at that I will not compromise on. Like, I mean, if you're a Nazi sympathizer, I'm sorry, I don't like you. I mean, there's certain limits that even I have, right? But I feel like there's so many people that are just afraid to even jump in and say anything. Yeah. Out of fear. And then I feel like those people are being alienated, like, because those people that they want equality, they want to be accepted, but then they end up just getting avoided and pushed aside. And that I don't like. That's the direction that things are going. It's like, I want people to feel like they can always talk to each other. I want people to feel like they can always say something. And if it's taken out of context or it's offensive, they should have an opportunity to explain it and to refine it. And it shouldn't just instantaneously, because somebody doesn't like you, they're just looking for every opportunity to attack you. And I'm guilty of all the above, by the way. Like, everything I'm saying right now, I'm guilty of doing all these things myself. But again, it just drives the point home, right? It's like, we are literally getting to a point where it's like nobody will talk to anybody and everybody's just gonna avoid everybody. And that's a sad day when that happens, because everybody's just gonna look at the other group and be like, oh man, they're plotting on us, and then it's terrible. I hope that we do everybody gets vaccinated, though, so we can start getting back to a little bit of normal, because I think physical interaction is something that we really need. Humans need. Like, I'm starting to realize that even myself, for mental health, because when you're on the internet, everybody's a keyboard warrior. Everybody is. When you are hiding behind a keyboard, you're in your house, especially if you're anonymous, like if you don't have any personal information online, it's a troll account or whatever, you can say and do anything that's on your mind and you have no repercussions for it whatsoever. And the problem is that ends up becoming like the majority of people online. So everybody that's there in earnest trying to communicate with other humans starts to think humanity's going into the crapper and everybody's becoming super toxic and everybody hates them. When in reality, if these same people met together in a physical space and occupied as physical space, it would go radically different. And you have kids and stuff and young people that aren't having these physical interactions, even at school, which schools arguably can be a toxic place, right? I used to get in fights at school and people disagree. I mean, kids go hard sometimes. And I would even argue that the internet's even worse than those experiences, because now you have all these people that have absolutely no limits and no consequences, just going for the jugular 24/7. Yeah. And then they get angry because it's somebody and attack them. And then somebody gets angry at them for attacking another person. It just ends up being this giant freaking civil war 24/7, and all the social media companies are cashing in on it. Cha-ching, 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 because you cannot disengage because you're in the middle of a fight. You can't just walk away. You get punched in the back of the head, right? So everybody's being forced to engage, on a subconscious level, and being fed advertisements. And obviously these companies are making money through the engagement. So now it's encouraged, right? It's like you want these people to fight. It's better for revenue for you to have people with drama and attacking each other than everybody just being nice to each other, because drama gets more likes and more views and pulls more people in than anything that's like considered normal, nice, or courteous. Apple for apple, right? Comparison. Right. And so you end up in these like weird situations where it's like the internet is basically profiting by us being like in the ring fighting each other 24/7. And so we do. And because we have no physical contact to balance that out and see what humans are actually like in person, we now have this entire generation of people that are becoming accustomed to how you are online is how humans are in person. And then they start dragging that into their real life.
Yeah.
And you start having a lot of angry people on the street walking around doing a lot of really angry shit. So, oh, Richard, my man, thank you for the $5. He said, with companies like SpaceX making space flight cheap, do you think quantum can be done in space?
Like computing? No, it's incredibly difficult to shed heat in space.
That actually is true. Yeah.
A vacuum is an incredibly great insulator. And so, no, it's not cold. The space is not cold. Space is empty, right? The space is a vacuum. There's very, very, very little material there. So it's actually a serious problem when it comes to like the space station and outer space vehicles and stuff. Shedding heat is very, very difficult because there's nothing to transfer it to. So no, I don't think quantum would be done. Maybe like manufacturing them might be easier in space, but like running them, anything that is hot is very difficult.
Yeah, I know that they have. I know the solar arrays and stuff on the International Space Station have like liquid coolant pumps and stuff. So they are using like liquid to move heat around. But where do they radiate it? Like they've got to put it shit into space, right? I mean, it's got to go somewhere. So I wonder how they're achieving that.
Entirely sure how it works.
Yeah, because you're right. Without air, right? I mean, that's what air cooling is. You're basically transferring the heat into molecules. And vacuum is no molecules. Like it's empty vacuum of space. There's nothing to transfer the heat to.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be air. You have to transfer it to something. A block of copper that you could then drop it into some, whatever. But yeah,
it dissipates into the surrounding structure. Yeah, but once it dissipates into the surrounding structure, it still has to radiate heat though, right?
Yeah.
So it is going to eventually it's hard. because it's infrared light, right? So you are going to have photons carrying the heat out into space. It's just not going to be transferring, like having a physical dense medium against it,
right?
Absorbing heat. So you got to spread it out over huge areas, basically.
Inefficient. Yeah.
So what they have to do is they have to create literally like radiators that have like billions of tiny little fins in them. Just to create as much radiant surface as possible.
Yeah.
And they couldn't even be opposing because they would just radiate the heat into each other, right? Like unrestricted. Yeah. So you almost need like a heat sink where it's like every angular surface or every reflective surface of the heat just goes out into empty space. Because if it just pointed back and forth, you just ping pong the heat, right? And it wouldn't dissipate as fastly or as quickly. That's crazy. That's not something that you would think about though, right? Because everything that we learned growing up is that space is absolute zero. It's like as cold as it gets, but it's like, no, it's not really cold. It's just the absence of heat, right? I mean, technically you could argue cold is that, but it's like here on Earth, you have air and you have moisture in the air, and then that freezes and accumulates as ice. And then that ice draws the heat out of your body. But if you were in space and you were just exposed to the vacuum of space, you wouldn't freeze instantaneously. Like you should at absolute zero. Like if I dropped you in liquid nitrogen, you're donezo in seconds. But in space, you could literally survive for 30, 45 seconds? Exposed to space without getting, I mean, you'd probably be pretty severely fucked up from the decompression, but but I heard that you could survive. Like you actually can survive a rapid decompression, and you can survive being in the vacuum of space for like, I think it's like 45 seconds or 30 seconds or something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Like I didn't know that. I always thought, watching all the movies and shit, you always think people would just explode, like go out into space or whatever, and they just freeze solid. Into a solid block of ice, and they would just instantly stop breathing. But no, they said if you exhale all the air out of your lungs, you could survive on the surface of the moon for like 30 seconds, then you'd pass out, and then you'd survive for like another 30 seconds in an unconscious state. And you'd still technically, if they could get you on board a ship and pressurize it fast enough, they could technically bring you back. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like that's something that you wouldn't think would be possible from like everything that we know about space. But
right.
Because the thing is, like, that's the other thing that people don't realize too, is space is just one atmosphere different, right? The total vacuum in space is only one atmosphere different from sea level on Earth. So think about like a pressure chamber, right? You go down to the bottom of the ocean, you're talking about thousands of times the pressure of Earth. You go into space, you're talking about a difference of one. It's not that much.
Right, but the one is again kind of relative, right? Like Earth gravity is 1, and then Mars gravity is like 0.95, right? It's a matter of where you start from, right?
No, it is, but also look at how they made like the inflatable the inflatable room on the ISS, the one that they're testing. It's basically like a tent in space, right?
Yeah.
Because the absolute vacuum of space is just 1 atmosphere different. You just have to create material that can stand up to the pressure of 1 atmosphere per square inch against it. So you can literally have like a mylar, like a thin mylar thing stitched together with like a little bit of a substrate, and it can stand up against that pressure. It'll literally pull itself out into space. Like you'll inflate it, right? But it's really vacuum's pulling it out into space, but it's not tearing it or ripping it. Spacecraft have incredibly thin hulls. Like if you took it down more than like 30 feet in the ocean, your damn spacecraft would collapse. But in space, it's fine. So I'm just saying the pressure difference or the pressure gradient or whatever between Earth and space actually isn't that much. Like to make, if you wanted to just have a ball, like a beach ball, and you took a beach ball in space, if you took a beach ball, would it blow up? No, it wouldn't. With one, if the beach ball was only pumped up to 1 atmosphere of pressure. Now, if it was pumped up to like 30, that's different, right?
It depends on the material of the beach ball.
Even rubber,
because the beach ball expands, but it's pressing against
it's pushing against the air. Correct.
The inside of the ball it has to have more pressure than the outside, otherwise it wouldn't expand. Right? It'd be smushed by the air pressure around it. So if you didn't brood it out into a vacuum, it would explode. Because there's nothing keeping it. That's why water boils at a lower temperature when there's less air pressure. Because there's nothing keeping it. There's nothing pressing down on it, so it would explode.
And that's the biggest problem with vacuum in space is it isn't you'd freeze to death. It's like you would boil off all the liquids in your body. Like
that inflatey thing you were talking about is probably less than Earth pressure, because there's nothing pressing against it. It doesn't need to be 1 full Earth atmosphere of pressure pressing outward. It's probably incredibly less because they don't need to be. There's no resistance pushing it back in.
I'm trying to see, because if I remember right, I think the tires on the Tesla Roadster were actually inflated. The one that they sent into space, and they didn't burst.
They may have had a little bit, but they wouldn't have been enough to. I would be very surprised. Or again, the material is tough enough to not explode, but they would have to have been underinflated. Because once the higher up you go without air pressure, the thing's going to expand.
Yeah, because I saw an experiment where a guy put a balloon, like one of those thick, rubber party balloons, not like the ones you blow up, but like the really thick ones that are like a volleyball or whatever. Yeah. He stuck that in a vacuum chamber and took it down to almost absolute zero, and it expanded to about another quarter its size. But it didn't blow up. It didn't explode.
So the material could keep it from exploding.
Right. Sure. But that's what I'm saying. Is like you don't need like a giant thick like steel or aluminum or carbon fiber thing. It's only 1 atmosphere difference of pressure. Like it would be harder to build something that stands up to going like 30 feet underwater. What is it? Every 10 feet you get an atmosphere? I forget, from scuba diving. I think it's every 10 feet you get an atmosphere of pressure. So because it's the column of water on top of you, it's the weight of the column of water on top of you. So I think it's like every 10 feet you get another atmosphere. So if you went down 20 feet in a pool, you would experience a greater pressure difference than you going from sea level to space. So granted, it's pulling out versus pushing in.
It's the other way around. The further down you go, the more you're going to be crushed. The higher up you go, the closer you get to outer space, the more you're going to expand.
No, correct. But the same vessel, like I mean, I know you can reinforce it more one way or the other, but if it's just a constant piece of material, let's say it's just a ball, a big ball, as you push it down the ocean, it's going to compress more and more and more and more, right? Yep. Until it hits a point where the material just bursts because the pressure inside is just too much from the water pushing it in. Basically, it's going to compress.
It'll collapse.
It'll collapse. But in space, and that's going to keep going up the deeper you go. In space, it can only go to 1. You only have a 1 atmosphere difference, which means if the ball only shrinks this much going under the water 10 feet, it should only expand that much going into space, just like a weather balloon. It should only expand however much the material will expand for that atmospheric change, but it'll only be 1. So arguably, now getting it up there is hard, but I'm saying a spacecraft would be infinitely easier to make than, say, a submarine.
Oh, yeah.
So pound for pound, because a submarine has to stand up to more than 1 pressure difference between where it was built and where it lives.
Right.
Whereas a spaceship, it's like, as long as you can put it in a vacuum chamber and pump it down and it doesn't explode, you can take it into space. Like you could literally live in like a Mylar fucking ball in space floating around, you know, and you'd be all right. And well, I mean, you'd have to have life support system and everything, but that's why I don't think on a lot of the spacecraft, especially the International Space Station, they said some of the places on there are millimeters thick. like the material.
I imagine.
It's like you couldn't take, if you took the ISS and dunked it down any more than like 20 feet underwater, that fucking thing would collapse, right? I mean, it's not built
collapse. It would probably collapse in atmosphere, like just surface level. Like,
I wonder how they get the one in the pool then. You know, the training one that they do in the pool, that one must be built to like different specs or
just built
like
differently. Yeah.
Yeah. But you're right? Because you're building something to be strong against the expansion, the pull on it from space. You're not building it for the compression of a pool. So obviously whatever model it is, they're doing something different there.
Having just thought about it a little bit, it is probably enough because we had to build it and get it up there.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine it would just collapse under its own weight.
Right. It has to be strong enough to survive the G's of getting up there, right?
Yeah, getting there. So it's probably more robust than it needs to be. Than it like.
So tell me this: if you built spaceships in orbit, they were never designed to land. They just live their life in space. They could be like infinitely fragile.
Oh well, a lot more in comparison. Yes, yeah, they could be,
because like the space shuttle has to survive re-entry and float and everything. If you were just a thing floating in space, you could literally just be like a sealed mylar tent with a life support system, and that would be sufficient. Like you could survive in that.
You have to consider things like the dust and the particles and stuff. So you start going too fast. You get going too fast, you're going to get tore apart. But people say micro meteorites and things like that. So
that's true. Like mylar would be punctured by like literally dust particles would go through it like a bullet. So
yeah, so you have to take that into account. But yeah, in a general sense, it would be a lot less robust than what we probably have out there right now.
So what kind of armor does ISS use? I wonder. Like I know they avoid the big objects, but they get pegged by micro meteorites all the time.
I'm not sure. I've heard there's something to do with like magnetics and stuff to help. But I imagine they get poked often enough.
That's crazy.
They're probably getting poked full of holes a little bit.
Yeah, because I watched Chris Hadfield. He talked about how you can literally hear it. Like on the space station, you can hear things like plinking, like physically plinking into the hull on the ship. So, they fix leaks all the time?
Well, and they're probably high enough that they're still like inside the Earth's like magnetosphere or whatever. So some of that stuff is just going to go, around the planet and such. But
because I know they can dodge big stuff, but they can't track the small stuff, like things that are like bullet size meteorites and stuff. They're not able to track that stuff. So it's like that hits you, you're screwed. I guess you just get a hole. Could you imagine just be sitting there floating on the space station, you're just plink, and you look over and there's like a little quarter-size hole in the side of your craft, like a little rock laying on the ground. Although I guess it's so much volume inside of the space station, as long as it's like a small hole, it's not going to, I mean, again, it's only 1 atmosphere difference in pressure. So it's not going to like completely vacuum out the inside of the space station instantaneously through a hole that big. Yeah. It's going to be the garden hose effect, right? It's going to be a slow leak, basically. Yeah. So they're going to have time to patch it. It's not going to be like what you see with like the movies and airplanes and stuff, where it's like the depressurized hull blows out the whole side of the airplane or something like that. It's not going to be that violent of a change. You could probably even stick your finger in it and you'd be all right.
Because the interior pressure just isn't that high. Yeah, like, it's not gonna. You probably could just seal it. I mean, I wonder
if you could. Has anybody answered that question?
Skin would probably freeze, but yeah, you could probably seal a hole with just your hand. You're not going to be sucked out because the interior pressure isn't enough to force you through the hole. It's not, the outside isn't sucking you out. It's the inside is pushing you out.
Oh, wow. Okay, so check this out. So this is 2018. An astronaut plugged the leak on the space station with his finger. So this has happened. Yeah. This has actually happened. So one of the dangers of floating in space station is that you really have to worry about leaks. After all, there's a thin metal shell between you and a vacuum of space, and even a small hole can quickly prove disastrous. That's the reality for astronauts aboard the International Space Station awoke to yesterday when they discovered a small leak in the station was causing an air pressure drop inside. Fortunately, the hole was small enough that it wasn't life-threatening, and one of the astronauts simply plugged the hole with his finger while waiting for a more permanent fix.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's crazy.
Because it's not, space isn't sucking you out. It's the interior pressure is pushing you out.
Yeah. And again, it's pushing against 1 atmosphere difference, right? So it's not a lie. It's not a ton.
It didn't even hurt.
Yeah, it'd be no more pressure on us. It'd be the area, right? It depends on the area, right? Because like I know that the area, like dictates the pressure per square inch, like multiplies, right? So
Sure.
like if you have a bigger area and you put your hand against it, it'd probably rip your hand through the side of it. But if it's just a tiny little hole, then you could block it. Just like I think what they say, like you could actually block a hole on like a dam with literally thousands of pounds of a water column on top of it or whatever. If it's a small enough leak, you could stop it. So, but if it was like big, like the size of like a penny or something like that, it would literally just cut your damn finger off. Because it multiplies the pressure so much, right?
Yeah.
Oh God, this is crazy stuff though, because this is stuff you don't really hear anybody talk about or contemplate. And it's like if you were on a spaceship, you would never in a million years, unless you heard about somebody doing it, think intuitively that you could just jam your finger in a hole and survive that. Like me, if I didn't read it, I'd think that it would just like literally suck you through the fucking little hole and just out into space, and you'd just be blood and guts floating around. So that's pretty cool. Oh yeah, the radiation of space would probably not be too kind to you. I mean, it's not. You've seen what it does to the cameras. Every camera on the International Space Station, even the new ones that they fly up on resupply missions, every single one of those cameras has dead pixels. Have you ever noticed that? Like whenever it's a dark picture, you can see a million dead pixels that are like stuck red or stuck blue. And it's because the cosmic rays are just bombarding the shit out of the sensor and destroying it. And I don't understand, why can't they just create a sensor that's like protected against that? I guess I don't understand why that is. Like, on Earth, we don't have those cosmic rays, right? Our magnetosphere takes them out and our atmosphere takes them out. So like the UV that hits us is pretty weak. But in orbit, like those guys, even though they're in a canister, they're still being bombarded by those rays just flying through that thing like it's not even there. Right. And it's damaging camera equipment. So if it's literally fucking up all the pixels on your camera, like what's it doing to your DNA? Like what's it doing to your cells? Like, I mean,
Again, I do think they're within the magnetosphere enough to where like the really bad stuff is okay, and they're inside, so there's going to be shielding inside. When you go outside, you're wearing a suit, so probably not much more than than you are sitting out on a sunny day.
Oh my God, it's wild to think about that stuff. Like astronauts, they put their lives on the line big time to do that. That is not a safe job. That's not like, even if everything goes according to plan and you go up there and you stay here 6 months and you come back, there's no guarantee you're not going to get cancer, 20 years later. You're not going to develop some weird genetic defect or something like that. I mean, it's a huge risk, man. I'd still do it though. Honestly, would you do it? Like if you didn't have like any like connection here on Earth where you felt like you had to say you were just like a free agent, like would you take the risk just to go like live in space for 6 months and experience that?
Oh yeah,
I would too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. In fact, if an opportunity to come up, I would seriously consider it, even in my current situation. Like it would be that'd be
a hard thing to turn down.
It would be, there would be a discussion like, hey, this has come up. I have this, like, let's talk about this.
I mean, they have high speed internet, right? And webcams. So, I mean, hey, this is a modern era we live in.
I'm down for a 3-day weekend. Like I would pay serious money to spend a weekend in space.
I would too. I feel that
if it weren't like $200,000, if it got to a point where it's within 20, maybe, I would do it.
I'll tell you what. Actually, here's what we'll do. We're gonna crowdsource something from our audience here. Hey, if any of you guys in the audience happen to be like multimillionaires, I know space is, space. No, he's already helped me way too much. I wouldn't take a penny from him. You by all means go after it, but he's already helped me out like more than I could ever ask another human being. But if there's any other multimillionaires out there, I think Aux and I would love to do a live stream on the Vomit Comet. Doing the 15 or 20 second 0G and the giant airplane.
That'd be sick.
That would be the closest thing that you can get to space without going to space. Like apparently it's the exact same feeling. Like the astronauts that train on it say that it's falling. It's all falling. So they and the air columns moving with you and everything. It's indistinguishable. They said it feels exactly the same. So I was like, man, I want to go do that. I want to go experience what it's like to actually weigh nothing. Like, well, you still have mass, right? Obviously, but I want to see what it's like to have no stress on my spine, muscle, because there's no way you can achieve that any other way. It doesn't matter if you're floating in water. It doesn't matter. You always have gravity pressing you against something, exerting mass. And my back hurts so bad. I just want to know what kind of experience it is to be able to relax absolutely and not have any tension in any muscle in your body, even for 15 seconds. I just want to know what that's like to experience absolute relaxation where it'd be impossible to achieve here under Earth under any condition.
That'd be cool.
That'd be pretty badass, dude. I do that. Oh, by the way, somebody keeps mentioning in chat, and I read about this yesterday, and I know nothing about it. Apparently, there's like a Chinese rocket they launched that didn't achieve a stable orbit, and that shit's like falling back to Earth
like,
or something.
Yeah, like chunks of it or something.
Yeah, what's going on? They said that some of the they said some of the chunks are going to be over a couple 100 pounds or something, and they're hoping it rains down over water, but it could actually make landfall in the United States. Is what they're predicting. Apparently, it's supposed to happen tonight or tomorrow morning.
Something like that. Let's see here.
I mean, that's a pretty big window, man. I'm not very confident in their tracking capabilities if they're like, oh, the shit might rain down tonight or tomorrow. I mean, that's a pretty big window.
Because they don't know where it is. They're not tracking it.
They don't know where it is. Tracking it.
No,
okay, hold on.
That was the thing, is they lost it. And they know, I guess, based on whatever, what they're the math, I guess, they know that it is going to happen, but they don't know where it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it says U.S. Space Command is tracking China's falling rocket booster, but won't shoot it down. So they say they're not going to shoot it down. Okay, so U.S. Space Command is closely tracking the large... Yeah, because I thought this thing that I watched last night on the news, they actually had like a long-range camera that was like picking up like the blob. Like you could kind of see the mass of it. And it's like in this weird elliptical orbit that's like it's decaying.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Okay, so it said the U.S. Space Command is closely tracking a large Chinese rocket body, and it's supposed to be over like 20 tons or something like that. It's a big boy. Fallen uncontrollably back to Earth and is predicted to hit the atmosphere sometime between late Saturday, May 8th. Odds are that the 23-ton or 21 metric ton Long Mark 5B rocket core booster will strike an uninhabited area since 70% of the Earth's surface is covered in the ocean. Okay, so they're just going to play the odds game like the lottery here. It's not the largest piece of debris to ever fall uncontrolled back to Earth. NASA's Skylab space station re-entry in 1979, for example, was much more massive at 85 tons. But we also dropped that intentionally in the ocean. Like, this is a little different, dude. This is like, if you drop Skylab on Seattle, that's going to be a problem. For example, was much more massive. Hold on here. Okay. Oh, but the booster's fall comes weeks after it successfully launched the core module of the Chinese new space station. Oh shit, this is the booster that launched their new space station?
I guess.
Oh, go China, crazy. Man. You put a space station in orbit, like drop a rocket on the United States.
I wonder if they're just sloppy on purpose.
Yeah, watch that be the case. Like, oh, our 20-ton booster has a nuclear warhead on it. No, I'm just kidding. They need us to buy their shit. Like, they can't do nothing. Let's see here. So from Beijing, Foreign Ministry spokesman Wang Wenbin said China is closely tracking the core stage, and most of it would burn up harmlessly in the atmosphere. The probability of this process causing harm on ground is extremely low, he said in the Reuters report on Friday. Gosh, this is going to be okay. So they really don't know where this thing's going to land. They just know it's going to be somewhere near the United States is what they're estimating.
Yeah.
So, okay, hold on here. So that said, this is the second time in recent memory that a Chinese rocket made an uncontrollable fall. Pieces of another rocket in 2020 reportedly slammed into inhabited villages. Oh shit. Fortunately, there was no casualties though. And then said even a very slight risk. There are parts of the parts were 98 feet by 16.5 feet. And like, oh my God, objects could hit a populated zone and zone is causing observers, military and civilians alike to pay attention. I mean, I don't know. They claim they're tracking it though. So if they're tracking it, they're going to know exactly where it's going to hit. Like, I can't imagine like with all the shit NASA knows, like they know the speed. If they're tracking it, they know the speed, they know the altitude. They should be able to do some basic math and figure out like where that shit's going to come down. But then again, when it breaks up, you don't know, right? Because when it breaks up, you have a bunch of smaller random bits. Where are those fucking things going, right? So
yeah.
Oh God, this would be so devastating if this came down over. But again, right? Even the majority of America isn't populated. All the populated areas are densely together, so the odds of it coming down in a populated area are pretty small.
Yeah, and it's not coming in fast enough to be like kinetic, right? Or I mean, not to like, it's not going to explode. It's not a meteor crashing in.
Yeah, the pieces won't be big enough.
The speed of sound. You know, it'll take a chunk, but it's not going to be like.
I gotta imagine though, like a chunk that's a couple 100 pounds or whatever. As long as it's like, well, that's the thing too, is like they don't really build aircraft out of like really heavy materials.
They deorbited, like on purpose. I thought they deorbited something in the 90s, and like Taco Bell put a bunch of things out in the water. Like they knew where it was they knew they were gonna splash down in the Pacific, and like Taco Bell put a bunch of targets out into the ocean apparently. And like if they were like, oh, if it hits our targets out there, like everybody can get a taco for free for a year or something like that.
Wow, that's a marketing campaign for you.
Deorbit, Taco Bell.
I mean, they drop satellites into the atmosphere all the time, but those things burn up pretty much entirely.
It was the Mir space station.
Oh, the
That's
Mir
what
was
it
the one they dropped
in 2001.
But that was on purpose, just like Skylab, right?
Yeah, the Mir one was on purpose. Yeah.
Oh shit! Stymie said a part of Skylab hit Australia. Australia fined NASA over it. Oh wow! So it didn't hit its mark. Oh, that's not chunks, very
right?
awesome.
You can't track everything.
That's true.
Chunks.
That's true. VR Gimp said if a piece lands in my yard, we need a video. No, totally, dude. Like seriously, if I go out my yard and I find like half a busted booster panel or something like that, yeah, you bet your ass I'm gonna be making a video on that before NASA comes and takes it away from me.
That'd be sick. You'd only have just a few minutes.
No, I know, right? The black helicopters and cops are gonna show up like instantly and grab that shit from you. So you better have a lot of video.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That would, I mean, it'd be cool, yeah, as long as it doesn't hit the house, right? God, that would be a shitty awakening.
Yeah, right. Does your house insurance cover that? I'm sure.
Yeah, like meteor strike.
The feds would cut you a check. They're not going to let you, even if your insurance doesn't. The feds would cut you a check for it.
Oh, Better Than Average Joe said Skylab was not controlled or intentional. Oh no shit, I thought it was. Okay, so that must have been the Mir space station then. So wait, Skylab deorbited like on its own? I thought they had a permanent presence on that thing. I don't know about that.
I punch in Skylab and it says crash.
Dude, that's, I mean, like how bad do you got to fuck up to like crash a space station into the Earth on accident?
So apparently it was 5 years after the last manned Skylab mission ended. No one was injured.
So it's just abandoned up there and it decayed its orbit or something? Interesting. Hey, Richard, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, with companies like SpaceX making quantum in space. That was interesting, though, you said that. I didn't realize the heat dissipation issue until you mentioned that. Yeah. And quantum computing generates like a shitload of heat. Michael Fernald, thank you for the $5 super chat. And Nico, thank you for the $5 super chat. He said, space is the great medium and equalizer. Sooner or later, we will have to master travel across it like we once did with the sea and land. Yeah, and the other thing, too, is like this is becoming readily apparent with China, is since we have like, we don't govern space, right? Like space is international waters. So it's okay for like China to just fly shit over our country. It's okay if we fly shit over their country. We fly shit over Russia. We every like space is like the one
satellites are flying all over the place.
So you're allowed to. I mean, shit. Elon Musk has satellites that are literally flying over like every square inch of the planet, like every day. So that's kind of weird because it's like they'll shoot down a spy plane flying over, right? Like that's a big no-no. However, if you're high enough and they can't shoot you down, then somehow it's okay. Even though you got cameras that are like way better, they can take better pictures. Like I saw something like the U2 used like the special film and it could take like really good pictures, right? Like the U2 is known for making like awesome detailed pictures. Fucking a satellite like this big takes better pictures than that U2 did at like 50 times the altitude, right? The camera technology is so good now.
That's the thing, right? Like the U2 was done in what, the 70s? You know, like so.
It's pretty wild, man. It's pretty wild to think about like where technology has gone. But space is a weird one though. Like, what are we going to do when like, okay, China's putting up a space station. Okay, now Russia's probably going to be like, fuck it, let's put up a space station too. Because they don't want to use China's because it's on a weird orbit and they can't reach it. So Russia's going to create their own.
I think they pulled out of ISS. Yeah.
That is true. I saw a documentary where they talked about the Soviets trying to shoot down the SR-71 and they could never pull it off. Yeah, because once they saw it, it was traveling so fast that their rocket couldn't intercept before it ran out of fuel. That was badass. Didn't even have to fly as high as the U-2 either. The SR-71 had a lower operating ceiling, but it just was so fast.
Oh, in the 50s. Oh, my bad. I may have had that mixed up with the SR-71.
Yeah, but it's, you know what? They still fly the U-2 today, though, which I think is pretty cool. Like NASA actually has one that they use for a lot of their missions. They put it up in the air. I think they even had it in the air for this last return on the SpaceX capsule because it flies really high and it has a camera that tracks it and then it sends the imagery down to the AWACS and then the AWACS relays it to the ground. So they have like all these aircraft in the air while this thing's like hurtling back to Earth so that they can get the earliest shots of it. It's really cool. Wow. Let's see. I don't want to make sure I didn't leave anybody over here. Hey, Eric G, thank you for $2. Said, hi guys. Hope you have a great weekend. Yeah, no, I keep forgetting it's the weekend. This is awesome. I need a weekend. Here, let's see what the other topics are we have. We talked about IBM cracking that 2 nanometer, or not really, but like, you know, faking it. Security and privacy and DNA.
Yeah, so this one's interesting. I guess so. This is actually a few years ago. Okay. The Paul G. Allen School of Computer Science and Engineering at the University of Washington released a paper in 2017. So I guess the gist of this is that with very specialized sequenced DNA, you can. So how here? I'll just quote the article here. They highlight two key examples of their research: the failure of DNA sequencers to follow best practices in computer security, and the possibility to encode malware in DNA sequences. So there is a full paper. This is more of a, I guess, an abstract, I guess, in a sense, or just an article based off of it. So let me skim this real fast.
I mean, I've heard of biological storage before. I know this is a concept that's been looked at for a very, very long time, is storing data at the molecular level using biology.
Well, so I guess what they did was they designed and create. So again, kind of partly quoting and paraphrasing, they designed and created a synthetic DNA strand that contained malicious computer code encoded into the bases of the DNA strand. When the physical strand was sequenced and processed by the vulnerable program, it gave remote control of the computer doing the processing.
Shit! So they they rooted a machine that was scanning DNA.
So yeah, I guess you bring in the data, the DNA, and the computer's decoding it and like processing it and stuff, and that.
So this is literally an out of band attack is what they call it, like or a fuzzing attack using DNA. So basically the software. So to break this down as a developer, as I understand it, this would be the equivalent of you sending like a JPEG to a computer that has a vulnerable bug in the JPEG viewer, that when it reads a certain part of data, when it's decoding the JPEG, it ends up inadvertently running other functions that give it higher level access to the computer. They found a vulnerability in the DNA scanning software and they're like, if it reads this particular DNA and decodes it, it ends up creating computer instructions that make it do something other than sequence the DNA. So they basically created a way for a human to root a computer by taking a blood sample and scanning it through like that. That's so, they fed in synthetic DNA strand in a bunch of other, like, imagine you could slip in a bad sample in a batch of like 23andMe, right, and then get control of the computer, but it's just the machine that does the processing. So but I suppose then if that machine is somehow connected to a larger system, you could probably escalate from there. Dude, this is like Matrix level shit, like Johnny Mnemonic stuff. So imagine if you had a piece of this, that like the vulnerability or whatever in your DNA, and you injected it into yourself with CRISPR, but you did it in a part in your DNA strand where it didn't do anything. Like, just find a place where it's just inert, and then somebody took your blood sample, like the government grabbed you or whatever, you're a spy. They take your blood sample and they start like sequencing it, like looking for shit. You can even store data that way too. Think about that. How cool would that be if you just created
gobs of data?
Harmless cells in your body that don't do anything. Like, basically just create a DNA structure that basically says, oh, ignore us, we're not doing anything. Just like, because we have lots of dormant DNA. Our body's full of DNA that does absolutely dick all. Like, it's basically just go-to statements that jump over it. Like there's no use to it. So if you could create a cell that basically had the basics to maintain itself and replicate, basically to back itself up, and everything else in it was just inert code that you were just adding onto the end to store files, you could literally turn your body into basically a USB thumb drive. Could you imagine that, walking around and like when you pick up your phone or whatever, like just the contact with the phone, it's transferring the DNA from your skin cells. It's scanning it through the side of your phone, and you're basically the storage medium for your device. So you could just pick up any device anywhere, just touch the keypad on the device, and it would automatically like know who you are and all your family photos and everything, like just every piece of, oh God, that would be some sci-fi level shit right there.
So there's a question in the chat that I think you'd have to handle, because you're better with the software stuff than me.
Sure. What is it?
He asks, why was it reading DNA and executing as code instead of reading and storing as text?
Oh, no. So
I think expand on the JPEG example.
Yeah. So here's how an out of band attack works. So a developer, when they write a program that does something, whether it be read text or in this case DNA, right? It's DNA. It's reading codons, sequences of codons. What it's having to do while it's reading that is it's not in the process of writing it to the file. It's sending it to another function, and then that function's going through and figuring out how to take that letter as we perceive it and convert it into the bit data that goes into the digital file. So during that process, there's a lot of code that massages that and checks it for errors and makes sure that it's valid. And especially with DNA or something like that, I'm sure that there's a lot of error correction in there to make sure that if it doesn't read something quite right, it checks it again. What they're doing is they found a vulnerability in the software where if you feed it a certain sequence of bits that it's not expecting, it basically runs off the end or does a buffer overrun. And this is one of many ways. It runs off the end, and then that little bit of code ends up getting pushed into a different memory address that's where another function lives. And that function ends up executing the code that you pushed off the end of that string. So what you can do in essence is if you understand how the code breaks something down, you can usually find a vulnerability in it where a developer didn't do proper checking, or they didn't account for something that should never happen anyways in real life. And you can actually capitalize on that to gain access. As a matter of fact, this is a really common attack that has found a lot of bugs in Windows over the years. Like for instance, there used to be a bug, I think it was back in Windows XP, actually. It was a really old one. There was a Windows XP bug where if you connected to port 139 on the computer remotely and you sent it a very specific string, it would cause the software that reads it. So you connect to the computer and the software is expecting a string that's a certain length. And it always will get that string that's a certain length because the only thing that will ever connect to it is another computer that knows what port it's connecting to and what it's sending to it. So it knows what to expect, and it only communicates with itself. Well, somebody created, this is one of the OG out-of-band attacks. Somebody just created a program that connects to the port, and instead of sending the string that it's expecting, it sent the string that it was expecting plus a couple of extra characters. And the couple of extra characters ran off the end of the memory and created an access violation in the kernel that would crash the box because the service was running in the kernel. So if you just overrode a couple bits of memory, the kernel, to protect itself, basically shuts the computer down. Or actually back then it wasn't a kernel. But the computer will crash and literally reboot. And you will get no warning. So that was like the OG out-of-band attack. But it's really common because software does a lot more than just copy. Like when you're scanning the DNA, keep in mind that it's not as easy as just say, oh, I found an A in the DNA, now put it in the file. That's not how simple software development is. What you're telling the computer to do when it's scanning the DNA is you're like looking for all the protein sequences, you're seeing what the order they're in, you're checking them, and then depending on their order, that's either going to be an A, B, or a C, depending on what RNA codon it is or whatever instruction it is. You're having to do a lot of data processing, just like if you were decoding a JPEG, right? With compression, you have to decompress it, you have to look at each bit, you have to see, is it red, is it blue, is it green, what's the strength of each color? Those are all checks inside of the code. And if you have a place in the code where the check is expecting very specific values, and you give it a value that it's not expecting, you can get that code to do something that it was never intended to do. And that's why error checking is so critically important. When you write a program, you can't just assume that it's always going to get, actually, I got a great example of this. Holy shit, did you guys see the Instagram story that's crashing everybody's iPhones? Mm-mm. So a guy, a full stack developer on Instagram found a way to create an Instagram story that if you click on it, it crashes your iPhone. And you have to physically like reboot it and do a recovery. And the way that he did it was actually really brilliant. And and once you hear how it works, the attack, it's like, how didn't somebody do this sooner? So when you open up Instagram and you put a sticker over your Instagram post, you know how you can click a sticker and you can put it over your post. So when you do a sticker, you can make it only as big as the screen when you stretch it out, right? So you stretch it out, it can only be as big as the screen. So anytime that you post something to Instagram, it can never be larger than say 1024. Right? Width or whatever it is, whatever the screen resolution is. So some guy was like, oh, what if I intercept the information from my phone when I'm doing the post and then I go in and edit it before it goes to the server? So then what you do is you go in there and you change the width of the thing to like 10 trillion pixels. Yeah. And what happens is your phone sees the 10 trillion pixels, and because Instagram never accounted for an out of bound number, like they're like, oh, there's no such thing as a resolution that big. They literally try to render the image at like the size of the earth on your phone. And it eats up all the memory and all the CPU and corrupts a bunch of shit.
Jeez.
So some guy figured out just by changing a number, but Instagram's like, well, our app is the only thing that posts these. Our web page is the only thing that posts these. So we control the inputs. So they never thought anybody would be able to make something that's this wide. Yeah. But they never accounted for somebody just intercepting the packet and modifying it before forwarding it onto them, because it's all just HTML, right? It's all HTTP traffic. So, and it can be replicated. You can actually still do this today. They did fix They did fix, I think, the main bug that crashed iOS, but you can still actually upload something with like an insane width that'll just now open and not display it.
Jeez.
But before it was trying to display it. And I watched a Mr. Who's the Boss video yesterday on it, and I was like, that's really clever shit. But it just goes to show that when you create software as a developer, if you control the inputs and the outputs, then you only check those. You don't check anything else because you're like, oh, nothing else is ever going to communicate with me. But you can't make that assumption. And that's the problem with developers. Like if you're writing a program that reads DNA sequences, you're like, oh, well, the DNA can only be an A, B, or C. That's all it can be. Like that's literally the limitation. But if you can put something into the cell that produces a chain of something that is irregular and should never be able to happen, then it might go through the code in a different way. And the best case scenario, it might crash the program. Worst case scenario, it might actually end up executing code. And a lot of people don't understand, like, why could you execute code? It should just crash the program, right? No, not really. Because here's the interesting thing about computers. You have something called a stack in a computer, and a stack is basically a place in memory where each function is stored, and where one function ends, another function begins. It's basically they're dogpiled on. One runs, another one runs, another one, and then as they're done, they pop out to the one before it. So when your program's running, it's literally start a program main, then function. That function's done. Go to the parent function. That function's go to the parent function. Go to the next one. Do it again. It's just constantly doing this. The stack is just going up and down. Like think of it like an audio meter, right? As it's running the program. Well, you can do all kinds of shit to fuck with that process. One of them is you can send a variable to, like, you can send an unexpected variable to the function that's longer than what it's expecting. And then when it goes to copy that into memory, it only allocated this much memory, but the thing it's putting into it is this big. Where does that extra little bit of memory go? One of two things happens. Either it becomes an access violation if they were really good about allocating their memory, but if they're shitty about allocating their memory and they're using common memory for everything, you could actually go off the end and into the memory of the next function. And when you go into the memory of the next function, you can run whatever you want.
That's how you see that's how you'll see exploits sometimes in like older video games and stuff.
Exactly.
You can do weird stuff where like buffer overruns
are the big one, yeah.
Or pause buffering and stuff, and then eventually the block of memory that is supposed to hold your position overflows, and it'll dump the extra data into the next block next to you, and now you're jumps you off to someplace else and things like that, or it gives you too much ammo or whatever. Yeah. I have to go.
Yeah. No worries, man. You go ahead and get out of here. I'll clean up things and I'll get your payment later, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You shall be paid.
Bye, everybody. Go check out Shannon L. Scott's website.
Yeah. Shannon L. Scott's like hooking up Houston with a payment today. So go get her books.
Love you long time. Bye.
All right. Take it easy, boss. So, just to wrap up on that topic, as far as like buffer overflows and overrun stuff, there's a million different ways that you can exploit software. And that's why it's really difficult for developers to cover every single possible contingency, because there's so many of them. That ends up becoming the problem, is like, how do you defend against every conceivable thing when you don't know what every conceivable thing can be? Right? No developer on earth understands every single API that they're calling, every single assembly instruction, every compiler optimization. And all these things are an opportunity for an attacker to do something malicious. Like, for instance, the developer could do everything right, and the compiler could be the problem. So the compiler is the thing that takes your C code or your C# or your Java, well, not JavaScript, that's runtime compiled. But anyways, you still have a compiler, but the compiler is the thing that basically takes the human readable language and makes it into the computer assembly instructions, the binary that runs on the computer. The problem is compilers have errors all the time, and compiler errors can actually cause your software to be exploitable. And that can happen too. So you could do everything. You could make your software bulletproof, where you check every variable, you check for overruns, you check for allocation errors, you check for unknown characters, you make sure everything is within its range. You could go just fucking ass over tea kettle making your shit so good. And you could have a compiler bug that literally goes and puts an optimization in place that negates one of your checks for performance reasons. And somebody could exploit that. So it takes a lot. Now just so you don't like feel all freaked out and shit, just to let you know, I mean, there's a lot of people that attack this shit every single day. So usually early in a development cycle for especially something like an operating system, 99% of the shit is caught. But that 1% starts showing its face throughout the development cycle. And then everything that they do to fix one thing can create another. So they might be able to patch one security issue and could inadvertently create even a worse security problem down the road. It just depends on how clever the people are that are attacking the platform, because there's always a way. And I don't believe in bulletproof software. I don't. I believe that all software has a weakness of some kind. But again, what level of access do you have? Can you look at the source code? If you can look at the source code, that makes it infinitely easier to exploit something. Do you have to fuzz it? Do you have to test it by just throwing it a bunch of shitty values for weeks and weeks and weeks and then see if it acts weird when you send it a certain value? As a matter of fact, one of the testing types that we did pretty religiously at Microsoft, and surprisingly, they didn't fix a lot of the bugs from it, was called fuzzing. And fuzzing testing is basically where you just take executables and run them and just pass them shitty command line variables and just crazy data and just randomly generated trash data and see how it responds. And you'd be surprised. We could crash about 90% of the programs on the computer by fuzzing it for 24 hours because we would find some sequence of random bits that you could send as an input on the command line that would somehow circumvent all of the checks and then still get to a point where it actually causes the application to crash or fails a check later on that wasn't intended to ever be hit. So you end up in these like really weird situations, and the developers don't want to harden everything. That's the other problem, is depending on the complexity of the variables that are coming into the program, it makes it infinitely harder to verify that variable without putting it through a ton of code that could be exploited. So generally speaking, the best way to keep a program secure is to assume nothing. Well, actually not assume nothing. You should assume everything. You should assume that no matter how improbable it is that a piece of data could be modified, even in memory. That's another thing too, is a lot of developers will harden shit at the memory level. Cheat detection. Like when you're running cheat detection on your game that kills your game if it finds you cheating, it's because it's literally scanning its own memory and it's using, it's basically creating checksums and verifying the memory. And if anything gets changed, it's aware of it and it shuts down gracefully. And so that you can't like just input unlimited ammunition or unlimited speed or unlimited crafting timer. You can't do shit like that because the cheat detection is physically monitoring the memory. So then you try to attack the cheat detection, but then a lot of these cheat detections will actually run multiple processes, many of which are not known, that will become sanity checks for each other. So it becomes more and increasingly difficult to shut them down. And then if you create the game to be dependent on it, then you start creating this situation where it's like, how do you attack the cheating software and the game and get the timing right between all these processes and everything to where it can't check one or the other and can't figure out what you've done before it's too late. And so that's why you're seeing these people put like anti-cheat in the kernel, creating these really low level system drivers and processes and stuff. Is because they're trying to put the cheating code at the same level as the rest of the system, so that if you try to get a higher level access than the cheating code, it can catch you. And that's what it literally comes down to. But you can still defeat it. I mean, people still defeat this anti-cheat shit all the time. So it's never bulletproof. And then you end up with diminishing returns. So you'll end up in a position where it's like, okay, what if you put 1 million checks in place for every possible conceivable situation and you verify every single piece, even the most improbable situation, you do that. Well, how much resources did you spend on that? How much time did you spend developing it? How much time did you spend testing it? Because now you have to test 1 million new permutations. How much time did you spend, or how much resources did you expend running this program with all this additional checks and balances? And you have to start to realize that after a while, it becomes diminishing returns. You know, it's like, yeah, the software does become a little bit more secure. You might get 0.0001% more security overall, but it might end up costing you 3 times the resources that you need on the system and slow your program down dramatically. So then it doesn't become worth it. So it's a constant, nothing is, I know, ironically, in programming, nothing is binary. It really isn't. It's like, you have to make a choice. There is always a gray area, right? It's like you're always struggling between performance versus resource use. That's a big one in video games. Like if you play a video game, it has to make the decision. It's like, do we want to use higher quality textures, or do we want to use lower quality textures that are rendered out on the machine that use up a lot more space, but make our footprint smaller and easier to download? Or do we want to send the high quality textures and then not have any pre-processing done on them so that the game loads faster, but requires a lot more resources? So like these people have to make all these decisions when they're developing software about where those trade-offs are, because you really can't have your cake and eat it too. Hey, Victor, thank you for the $5. I appreciate that. He said, hey, Jerry, I just joined Rad Power Bike to begin Monday. Dude, awesome, man. He said, I applied based on your 2 videos you made in the past. Seemed like Mike the mission was okay. Seemed like Mike the mission. Oh yeah, no, I know Mike. Okay, I'm trying to think of who you're talking about. Wow, so wait a second. So you're gonna work at Rad Power Bike? So because of my video, you discovered him and now you're working for him, or did you just buy one from him? Dude, that's baller, man. That's awesome. Well, tell him I said hi. I haven't talked to him in a very, very long time. So tell them, well, Barnacules said hi. They're probably wondering what happened to me. Life has not been very nice to me. Christian said, I recently installed Element, the Matrix chat client. Do you know about it and the Matrix network? It seems awesome. I know nothing about it, honestly. So it's called Element, the Matrix chat network. What, I mean, is it supposed to be like a competitor to Signal or something? Let's see what else we got here. Numa said, how much do you think languages like Rust will improve software security like that regarding memory handling, etc.? You know, I haven't done any development in Rust, so I couldn't tell you, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that it's probably a managed language. And managed languages actually do a lot for developers as far as security is concerned. It doesn't do everything for you, though. Like it'll protect you against things like access violations. It'll protect you against buffer overruns, because that's built into the memory management system of most managed code. But remember that you may be protected from it, but the runtime itself could still have a bug. The runtime compiler and elements and APIs that you're calling could still have a bug. The subsystem that it translates to, the straight up C++ or C code that it's deriving from lower down in the stack or whatever, higher up in the stack, that shit's going to be, no, it would be lower down the stack. Sorry. It's been a while. That stuff could be susceptible. The memory management system on the computer could be susceptible. The kernel could be susceptible. The drivers running in the kernel or alongside the kernel, they could be susceptible because of their level of access. You end up in this situation where it's like so many pieces of software are working together. Like you might think you're just running your program, but no, there's a lot going on under your program that could all be vulnerable. So even though you think your code is solid, it doesn't necessarily mean it's solid. And also remember, they could also introduce those bugs in future versions of the runtime. So in many cases, when you write, like say a .NET managed program, you have the option of making it run on any runtime, which means that anytime a new runtime comes out or a new library comes out, you benefit from the performance and the resource use and everything of the new platform. Kind of like Java. It's like you just get the new version. Now your code's magically working. Although if there's deprecated APIs and things that they got rid of, then your program's not going to work. It's going to crash. So a lot of people will lock down their program to a very specific version of the framework. And then if a new framework comes out, it still uses the old framework until you test it and modify it and update it to the new framework. Then you release a new version that uses the new framework. And the reason why people will do that instead of just taking the obvious benefits of using the new framework is the changes in the new framework could make things faster, introduce timing issues, could expose bugs that you didn't have before. Maybe you're using some of the APIs in a way that not many other people have in the new version of them that breaks when you use it that way. I mean, there's all kinds of considerations that you have to make in software development to see that's risk versus reward. And security, unfortunately, is still one of those considerations, right? Because you can work on something forever to make it the most secure thing on earth and still be exploitable. But obviously, it's only going to be as secure as much as the code that you write and the time that you put into it. So, but just always assume that nothing's guaranteed. That's the best way. When you're a software developer, don't ever tell yourself, no way could that ever happen. Like, there's no way something could modify the memory in my program. Oh, there's no way this variable could be this. Oh, there's no way when it's enumerating the drives on the computer, it's ever going to return anything but a letter and a colon after it. Because if you make those assumptions that you're always going to get quality data from something, then the attacker's just going to target the thing you're trusting to get by your security. So it's the same thing as social engineering. When you call somebody up on the phone at the company, you're like, oh, hey, I'm down in IT tech support. Like, could you give me the office number for this person? And then you call them on the phone. Okay, this is the guy from the office number, blah, blah, blah. Could you give me my password? Or can you reset my password? Okay. Oh, I got this new email address. Can you send it here? I mean, you can social engineer your way into a system. It's the same way with software. If I check every input coming into my program meticulously, and you have no way to exploit anything using the input data to my program, then what you may do is go find the APIs that I'm relying on to give me specific data, and then exploit those things so that they give me bad data. And if you can exploit one of those things to give me bad data, I'm off my guard. So like an example, this would be like, let's say I want to just crash the program, right? Let's say I have a program that lists all the drive numbers on the screen. Like it just shows A: through Z:, right? And so I have a program that does that. It does all the checks on the command line. It goes and enumerates WMI, and it gets the list of all the drives by hitting one of the WMI providers or whatever, and then listing out all the drives on the screen. Well, what happens if I go into the WMI repository and I publish a drive that can't exist? Like ASCII character 254 and 3 backslashes. Well, what happens when my program hits that and it's not expecting it, and it's formatted to only print the letter followed by a colon, and now it gets something that's like 4 letters, but it only allocated 1 byte of memory, or 2 for Unicode. It only allocates the memory for the 1 character, and then I feed it 3 because it was never expecting to get more than 1 character back. And now I've created a situation where the data it relied on and always thought was going to be solid wasn't so solid. Now I just broke your program because you trusted an API. And the thing is obviously what happens if you check every single input that ever comes into your program? Then you have a slow ass program. So there's obviously places where you need to make an educated determination of whether the data coming from that is being sufficiently checked on their side and can be trusted. But just realize that, I mean, programs are comprised of literally tens of thousands of APIs for like a big program, right? So when you're calling into tens of thousands of different APIs and stuff like that, it's really difficult to figure out like which ones you need to do like more security checks and more sanity checks on, versus, especially if it's one you're calling thousands of times a second. Like, let's say you're creating a program that's checking like the CPU, you're trying to trend the CPU usage. Well, if you have to put in a check to make sure that the CPU usage is between 0 and 100% every single time through the loop, you're now eating up those additional CPU cycles, which is slowing down its cyclic rate, and it can't pull the CPU as fast, right? So you're slowing it down by doing that check. But if you make the assumption that it can never be over 100%, then you don't have to make that check, as long as you're reasonably certain that the thing that's returning you data is always going to give you between 0 and 100 and never go outside of those boundaries. But again, by you making that assumption, if somebody looks at your code and sees that you're not checking those APIs, they're going to go look for vulnerabilities in those APIs and figure out a way to get it to return you 101 or -1. In which case your program isn't expecting that. And when it goes to do the math, you might get a divide by 0 error and crash your program. So, yeah, anyways, I could go into this shit for like hours and days. Like I love software development. I'm sad that I haven't done it in a long time. Like really need to get my laptop all set up and everything for software development so I can be on the move. I think I'm going to go ahead and start wrapping up though. Usually we wrap around 1, but I wanted to finish that thought because I am a little bit of a software developer. I guess aficionado. Like I did it for most of my life. I've been a software developer. I started when I was 7 years old at Apple Basic and worked my way up through Microsoft as a senior software developer. If you guys haven't seen my video, just do a search for Barnacules and Microsoft. You'll see my regs to riches story back when I was working for that company through 2000 through 2015. And I did a lot of cool shit there. And I miss it, but you know, who knows? There's always a new chapter. I got a bunch of medical shit coming up on the horizon, and I'm going to go through that and see where it leads me. And hopefully it puts me in a position where I can start getting life back to normal again, because I miss the old me. All right, guys, you have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you so much for supporting Tech Talk and what we do. Honestly, this is a huge distraction from like the bad things I'm dealing with, and it means a lot to me. And I hope to see you guys over on my Twitch stream. I do Monday, Wednesday, and Friday over on Twitch TV/Barnacules. Make sure you give me a follow over there and enable notifications. And I will see you over there on Monday. Just fair warning, though, I go quite a bit harder over on the Twitch stream. So if you're expending, you know, I kind of feel like I've acclimated you to me a little bit here, but then I go pretty hard over there. So just be warned. Don't get too shocked if you come over there and you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with Barnacules? No, it's a different show. I do it a little differently. All right, guys, I love you. Thank you for everything, and all the information that you need to find all of us on our social media. If you want to talk to us between shows, is all in the video description. Thanks again, and I'll see you next.